Okay, good evening. I'd like to welcome all of you to the City Council work session and special meeting of Tuesday, October 10th. First, we have called to order and approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, we have public comment. Anyone that would like to make public comment, I'd like to remind you that we are respectful and kind and we keep it under 3 minutes. So is there anybody that would like to make a public comment in the audience? Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to make public comment? Okay, then we'll go ahead and go into our discussion items. First, we have Clatsop Community College. We have the board president here by Zoom, and she's going to give us a little report on the state of the college. So, Trudy, are you ready? Good evening, Trudy.
Hi, good evening. Let's see.
There we go.
Hopefully you can see me. There we go. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I'm sorry that I am not there in person. My husband ended up having to cover for someone at one of our at our yoga studio, actually. And so I'm home with the kids. But I really do appreciate the opportunity to address the Cannon Beach City Council. So thank you so much for having me. I do have a couple of slides, if it's okay to share that with you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be fine. Thank you.
Okay, these are the same slides that I shared at the county commission meeting.
Aren't we all glad we're inside?
We got in just in time.
So, let's see. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my video just to make sure we consolidate. It says low system resources on my screen here, so I just want to make sure. You're still able to see it though, yes?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I have had the opportunity to speak with the Astoria City Council, the Warrenton City Council, the Clatsop County Commission, and now addressing Cannon Beach. And I am so grateful to be able to do that because I do feel that this information is really important to hear from the horse's mouth rather than assuming that our various communities that we represent are going to find out from the paper or naively think that they're going to read the minutes of our meetings. So we wanted to go out and communicate that directly. And the mandate that we really heard was that people wanted transparency. But the thing about transparency, as I'm sure you're all aware, is that it's not always pretty as you're moving through any sort of difficult or polarizing situation. There are things that are not ideal, and we as elected representatives need to be willing and able to share that with our constituents. The financials are in a very precarious situation. I would argue the most precarious in Clatsop Community College's 65-year history. The good news is, since I originally put these slides together this summer, I feel like we have made a lot of good strides towards stabilizing the situation. I am confident that we will get it under control, but that's not to say that we're not still in a situation that's going to require a lot of close monitoring, and we'll go through some slides related to that. And the fact that we got to this situation, I will take it upon myself as a board member. I've been a member of the board since July of 2021, but it really is up to the board, up to the elected officials to make sure that the college stays financially sound and stable. And the fact that it is in this situation really is a disservice, not only to the students, but to the employees and to Clatsop County as a whole, because you may have seen there was a study of the economic impact of community colleges in Oregon, and They studied specifically the impact of Clatsop Community College in Clatsop County, and it is truly enormous, the impact that the college has, not only from the students who are able to then go on and have higher earning potential, but also because of the jobs the college itself provides, in terms of the faculty and the members, but also at our various campuses between the Mertz campus and our South County campus and the Lexington campus. We've got close to 200 employees, and they really rely on us, and so does Clatsop County. And so all of these parties deserve to make sure to have the board, its representatives, make sure that the college is going to be on stable footing. And it really does take a village. When I was reading about the Sunset Empire Transit District, which I want to caveat, we are nowhere near going the way of the transit district, but it was, as I was seeing how various elected officials in other capacities were trying to figure out what had happened with the transit district, that I realized, this is something we should be communicating about early and often. And so I think as long as we all understand that there's an issue and can work together, we will be able to, as a county, come to a solution. And then looking to the future, I don't want to, just share the downside. We do have amazing faculty, amazing programs. We have wonderful campuses. We will survive and we will prosper as a community college, but it just does require a little bit of financial discipline to make sure that we get there. So this is just an overview. So this first graph you can see here, hopefully the colors come through okay, but this is full-time equivalent students. So this is if you took all of the credits that all of the students are taking and you divided that out by 45 credits per year, which is the equivalent of a full-time student, this is how many we would have. And obviously we have a lot of part-time students, but this is one way that colleges can do an apples to apples comparison. And as you can see, we hit a sort of a high of about 1,500 FTE in 2010, and we dropped off after that, and there were a lot of budget cuts in the 2012 to 2014 timeframe. About a third of the college employees were cut at that time, and as you can see, the downturn was much less than it has been recently from 2020 to 2022. The good news is for 2023, we're up about 10%, 8 to 10%, depending on how you calculate the figures, but we are trending in a positive direction, which is a good thing. And then here you can see over the course of time, this is sort of two snapshots, 1991-92 to 2021-22, the total number of employees was really close, 120 versus 123. But the green bar there is faculty, the blue is our classified hourly employees, and then the yellow is our administration and support staff. And as you can see, the number of faculty went from 42 down to 29. And the number of administrators went from 24 to 47. So that is a big shift from the people who are student facing to the administration. And I'm not necessarily correlating anything. It's just something for us to be aware of in terms of what's shifted over this time period. And then in that same time period, we've seen a greater reliance on outside funding and spending on support services. So starting with funding, the green bar at the bottom is tuition and fees. So that depends upon the number of students. And then the blue bar is local property taxes. And those two, as you can see, have remained relatively stable from 2008 to 2018. But what has really changed is the reliance on state funding, which is the yellow bar. And there's a very thin blue bar in there that just impacted, I think, like 1 year. The green bar at the top is timber. And that is something that I think we're all intimately aware of being not reliable and likely to go away. Now, I was only able to get the data from 2008 to 2018 because that was what was available on the state website. We have had a heck of a time getting numbers out of our internal systems because of the well-publicized software debacle that we had, as well as sort of intractable situations in our business office. But you can see here, we really are reliant on this outside funding. And even if we increase our student numbers, we don't really have control over those calculations for the state funding and the timber revenue. And then this shows our expenses by category over that same time period from 2008 to 2018. And you can see the instruction expense has remained relatively stable. That's the green bar at the bottom. And then instruction support is the blue bar on top of that. And then administration is the yellow bar, followed by student services, and then finally facilities. And the unfortunate part about that dark blue facilities line is it should have been much, much larger than what it was during that time period. It seems as though Clatsop Community College at some point made the decision that rather than cutting staff, we would cut the support for the buildings, the maintenance services. And so the estimate is that we have $15 to $20 million of deferred maintenance, and the budgeted amount from last year to take care of our buildings was $86,000, which I think we used up already. And our fiscal year started July 1st. Now, granted, we can move things from other budgets, but that gives you an idea of how much we really ought to have been spending compared to what we were. And that's the end of this slide. I did want to comment as well on what I spoke to the Daily Historian about this recently. Our interim president, Kevin Lacoste, who came in as of July 1st, is a former US Bank regional president, very savvy financially, and he has helped us kind of go back and piece together what has happened with our financials. And the big thing that's not included in those slides that we have realized is that the college had a fairly sizable savings account, if you will. It was assets that were liquid that were available in our plant fund and in a couple of other funds, and those were liquidated for a number of reasons. The main one being the software system was the original software system that we attempted to install prior to my time ended up being a complete disaster. And so that was $3 million that basically went out the window. We are going to try to go through arbitration to get some of that back, but our attorneys are telling us that it's a pretty ironclad contract. And then there's another roughly 2 million, a little more than 2 million, that went into a project that was going to be called MERTS 2, which was to add a $22 million building out at Tongue Point, 14 million of which was supposedly going to be raised from Clatsop County residents. And that just didn't happen. About $1 million was spent on an architect firm, and another $140,000 was spent on a consultant who was going to help raise money, but only raised $32,000. And then another $836,000 came out of our liquid assets and was used to purchase the land that the MERTS facility sits on, that we had been leasing for the previous 20 years. So while we now own the land, we don't have access to those funds. So that is our high level review. And I'll stop there if anyone has any questions of sort of looking back, and then we can look forward.
Any questions?
Where do you start? I guess I'm curious about the number of administrators that you have and the increase. Are you planning to reduce that number because of the reduced number of students that you have?
So we have already reduced the number, and it was 2 at the highest level, which was our Vice President of Finance and Operations, as well as the Vice President of Academic Affairs. And the Vice President of Finance and Operations did not see where we had an issue financially. And that was pretty clear as soon as Kevin Lacoste took over. She had only begun working at the college in March. And so she had never been in a VP of Finance role and was getting quite a premium for that role without understanding that we were in a financial crunch. So that, I think, is going to free up some resources. And also Kevin Lacoste has amazing financial background. So we felt confident that he could handle that. And then the Vice President of Academic Affairs and Student Success was a position that just had many layers below it. And we didn't see the value from that position. So having removed that and then we promoted Tina Toyas, who, if any of you have been involved in athletics at all over the past 30 years in Clatsop County, she is the blonde ref that everyone knows. She's amazing. She's been dedicated to the college for 25 years and knows it inside and out. And she is a straight shooter, as anyone can tell you. She does it by the books. And she's willing and able to help us through this. She's going to take over the academic affairs part, and she will assist Kevin Lacoste with operations. So that is a big step, and that frees up a huge amount of the budget, actually. And then as far as other roles go, there is some justification for having added so many additional administrators. There are a lot of new requirements from the state, as well as a lot of grant background that's required in order to qualify for student financial aid and other grants that the college receives. So there's a full-time person in our accounting department whose sole job is to keep track of grants and all of the paperwork that goes along with that. So that is something that really has changed. But I do think that there's a way for us to become leaner and meaner, but it's just going to be a matter of I would say the next budget cycle going into next year is when we're going to be able to get a better feel for where we can sort of tighten the belt, as it were. For this year, we were really fortunate to get the retained employee COVID credit, or at least we have been told we will be receiving it, and that's $1.5 million. That is a one-time thing, though. That's not ongoing. So that is going to help us get through this year. We'll be fine with all the staff that we have, but then it'll be a matter of looking to next year how we can streamline things.
Yeah, when you have 29 faculty members and 47 administrative, it seems a little unbalanced there.
I agree. That's why I wanted to show that chart, because it really, I mean, it doesn't take much to look at that and go, wow, that looks a little lopsided.
Yeah. Well.
Any other comments about the rear view mirror? No. Well, looking forward, I really am excited about where we're going looking forward. Kevin Lacoste has reactivated partnerships with all of our local school districts, and he's meeting once a month with the 5 local superintendents. And that is something where we were getting a couple hundred students from the high schools previously, and it dropped down to single digits. I mean, it was absolutely crazy how much it went down. And the superintendents told Kevin that they had kind of given up on trying to communicate with the college because there had been so little response from the administration. And I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, you know, I called the college and I offered this help, but I never got a call back. So I just kind of gave up. Are you interested in that? And every time I was like, you're kidding me. This is great. I'm so grateful that you're reaching out. Yes, we will take your help. In fact, we had one person who lives in Warrenton, but had spent 20 years in Iowa working with this new software system that we're in the process of installing right now as a CFO for community colleges there. And
Wow.
he is coming on as a consultant to help us. And he had reached out prior as well, but no one had taken him up on it. And so I jokingly told Kevin Lacoste, I was like, I think instead of our vision being creating opportunities and enriching lives, it should be creating opportunities and returning phone calls,
Really?
because that's probably going to get us further right now.
Is Kevin Lacoste going to become the permanent college president? Or is he are you going to be hiring another person?
That has not been determined at this point. What I felt when he came on board was that he was really going to need 2 years. I kind of talked about it like orthodontia, you know, like first you have to extract before you put the braces on. If you try to just put braces on without getting things under control first, it's not going to help. So it's a sort of a two-step process. We've done some extractions now. We've got a little bit of blood we're cleaning up. But then going into next year, I think we'll be in the braces section where we can kind of straighten things out, see where we're going and what is going to be the best leader for the future for the college.
Wow.
Anyone else have any questions, comments? Well, thank you very much. Good luck.
Interesting.
And come back in a year and tell us all the great news.
Thank you. I will do so. I again really appreciate the opportunity to address you guys directly. So thank you, and thank you all for your service. I have a new appreciation for what it takes when someone steps into an elected office. So thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. After that wonderful news, we have the utility rate study.
Wonderful news.
Yeah. Come on up.
Good evening. Duncan and I are here in Lori's stead. We also have Doug Gabbard on the line of SCS Group, who produced the rate study that you reviewed, I think, at your last meeting in September. And at that meeting, I guess there were some questions, and I think Lori provided some answers, and then there were some follow-up questions from some counselors. And so I guess we're here just for you guys to have a discussion about that and ask Doug any further questions you might have about the rate study or going forward.
Well, I sure appreciated the information. It was very interesting, very thorough. And so thank you for that.
You bet.
I have some questions. Okay. So looking at all of the numbers that you provided, it appeared to me that the 3/4 inch pipe, residential pipe category, that it actually 36% of the usage was residential. You work out the percentage from the numbers
From all types of lines?
from residential, from 3/4 inch.
I'm not sure where you're finding that number.
Attachment.
got its own line. Residential 3/4.
Mhm. If you take it and compared to all of the usage, if you take it compared to all of the usage within the city of Cannon Beach, it seems to me that the pipe users who use less water are paying a larger percentage of the revenues.
The consumption, the people using less than 400 cubic feet represent, looks like about 26%.
I got 36%. and 4.7% of the revenue is generated by residential. 40.7, I'm sorry. 40.7% of the revenue is generated by residential. If you just look at the numbers and do the,
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
okay,
Attachment B
yeah. Attachment B.
Attachment B of,
of our packet.
oh. Yeah, I don't know if I have that. I'll pull it up. Yeah, can we look at it on screen?
Look. It appears that there's an,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, so there's no percentages on that, so you're just doing your own math. Yeah, that's. It is,
so if you have 6% of the usage being residential, while 40.7% of the revenue is generated by residential, then that's not balanced. In other words, the residential users are sort of carrying extra weight that they shouldn't have to carry, is how I'm looking at it. And so I'm wondering if it's possible, there's different ways of looking at it. I wrote a note about the possibility of lowering the base to 300 rather than 400 cubic feet. But then that causes a whole bunch of skewed numbers as well. But I thought what you could do is leave the base rate at 400, but don't put in the same percentage of increase for the 3/4 inch pipe as you are for the rest of it. So that the residents don't pay as huge of a, don't have as big a burden. And you shift the burden to the bigger pipes. You can't generate enough revenue for the projects we need. I'm all for these projects getting done. Don't get me wrong. I think that's absolutely essential. But I think there must be a creative way to switch some of the burden of doing those projects off of the residential user with a 3/4 inch pipe, most of whom are not even hitting the 400 mark for the base. At least according to your numbers, they're not. I think it was 315 or something like that instead of 400. So it seems that there's a way to do that would work. Either decreasing the base, which would be could cause other problems, or just not increasing the percentage after the base of the base rate as much as.
pardon?
I was gonna say, maybe we should ask Doug to respond.
Yeah, I think that's what you're here to discuss is.
Right, but so can we do that? And what would be the end, the result? I mean, there'd have to be a lot of moving and shifting of other rates to do it. There's nothing that says we have to have the same rate after the base for commercial and residential. We do, but we don't have to. So I just am bothered by the fact that it seems that the residential 3/4 inch pipe is taking such a huge burden in this scenario you've laid out for rate increases.
I am puzzled by that concern because when you look at their percentage of revenue and compare that to the percentage of the customer base, that seems quite more than equitable.
And I see it differently. I see it as not being equitable, that you have 36% usage, but 40.7% of the revenue generated by that 36%.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much the number of customers as it is the usage.
Mhm. Right. So that is what bothers me about this. And I think I'd like to see, I was hoping you guys would come back with something this time, but we didn't get one that sort of gave us a couple different scenarios of how we could maybe take some of the burden off of. There's a lot of people who don't use 400 cubic feet as a base, and they're still going to pay the base rate, even if they're not using it. And that's a lot of people. So in order to make it more fair and not have a, whatever it was, over 100% increase over 9 years, it would seem to me that we could lower the percentage of increase for the residential 3/4 inch pipe user.
I don't know about lower that.
Or not
but-
increase it.
Exactly.
Yeah, not increase it as much. That's what I meant, Gary. You're.
I had the same thought, and I don't know if I'm just unable to extrapolate here. What the increase in usage beyond the 400 cubic foot base is, how much more do they get charged for the additional usage? How much more do the larger pipes pay? I mean, is that?
That's also, I believe, that was in your, the rate study that was presented to you at the last meeting. I think it's page 8 of that rate study. I don't know if you have it, I believe.
But I think we were told that
Yeah.
rate is the same. Everybody after the base is met. The rate per 100 cubic feet is the same.
Yes, $6.
Yes, it is.
$6.42.
It is that, why can't we decouple or uncouple the base rate from the 100, from what happens afterwards?
You can do whatever you want.
It's like,
No, I'm not,
Right.
asking you guys for some.
By decouple, are you saying increase the additional usage
Good.
beyond that? Is that,
Good, yeah.
okay?
If there's a revenue shortage, for the.
And Doug, weigh in anytime because you're the expert. Doug's been through these numbers.
So,
Interesting.
one of the things that I heard is don't necessarily change any of the existing rates, but any rate increase, the 3/4 inch residential should get less of an increase.
Yes,
Which is certainly possible. If that's something that you're serious about, we can model that out in a revenue neutral way. In other words, get you the same result and make the utility whole, and then the rate increases could fall harder on everybody else and less hard on 3/4 inch on the chosen group, the 3/4 inch residential.
yes, and when you say chosen group, it sounds like that's not a good sound. I'm talking about the residents who live here. I'm talking about people who live here on a fixed income and are paying a water rate that with this kind of increase will be very difficult for them. And
Okay.
that's what I'm talking about,
I hear you.
not the chosen people. I'm just talking about an equitable way of doing it.
Okay.
And what I.
So yes, if that is the council's direction, then yes, we can model that out.
I would also like our rates to encourage
Conservation.
conservation.
Yes.
And that would be one way to do it,
Mhm.
is go to, have a different rate for people that use less water with a 3/4 inch meter.
Right.
So if you really wanted to go that direction, why not scrap the base rate entirely?
I don't think we want to go backwards on revenues right now.
No, it has to be, I mean, I think we all agree we need the revenue.
It's probably going to be a big stretch to even go where we're talking about.
Oh, I don't think so. I think,
And increasing the price of usage beyond
right.
the 400
And that-
cubic feet.
And that really does motivate people to use less
Yes.
water.
I think it does.
But
And then the commercial too.
right. I'd
Again,
like to see modeling, some idea scenarios where that would work and we'd still not lose money for our projects.
yeah, I don't,
Shift it.
I think 5 years, 230% increase, $500 a month roughly. In 5 years that your base customers are going to be paying, and they're probably not even using that much anyway. That's painful.
Okay, so what the one scenario I'm hearing so far is existing rates stay the same until it's time for an increase, and we want higher increases on everybody but residential 3/4 inch, and they get a lower increase.
Correct. They still get an increase, but a lower.
Understood.
increase.
And so
Yes.
if that's the scenario you want to test, we can show you of a variety of options within those parameters that get you to the same total revenue as we were showing you in our rate study when we were there.
Okay, that,
Yeah, I'd be willing to support this 2024 increase, but to have it continue over the next 5 years at that 20% rate is compounding that increase every year. But I believe we have to approve the 2024 rates soon.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'd be willing to support that for 2024. But beyond that, I think what Lisa's saying is exactly what I was thinking.
I think that's an excellent idea to adopt the study and then put it in motion and then go ahead and do the work that you're asking about to modify what's beyond and to meet all those objectives that you're.
say adopt the study.
Yeah, I'm concerned about adopting the 10-year study
Yeah,
because
I'm not
it's-
interested.
Okay, well, right. I mean, but
we vote separately each year on the water increase, right?
yeah, but you also, I think you have to adopt the study in order to adopt the rates in it. If you wanted to take those rates for the January 1 plan. Because right now with Doug going back and doing this work, I don't think those will, I don't want to speak for Doug, but I don't think those would be done in time to adopt different rates. If that
What
makes,
happens is that, because this is all happening over time, if we delay the implementation, that's fine, we're okay for in the short term, but it's gonna cost more later on. Because you still have to make up, like suppose it's $50,000 is what we lose that we would have collected. Now, I don't know if that's the right number or not, but if we would have collected it over 3 or 4 months, if you don't do it and you delay, you still need that $50,000. And so that goes on is a premium on the next, when you finally do the implementation. And also, the water system really hasn't had that much capital improvements in it. And right now, we're doing a major capital improvement project, which is the water resiliency.
Right.
And we need the funding to be able to do the water resiliency. And what we're doing is we're comparing to a time when we had very little to a time when we're doing something significant and trying to do it within a 5 to 6 year period. So that's what we're comparing to.
I understand that. I do get that, Bruce, but I'm not willing to adopt this 10-year plan as it is. I mean, I want to see a different numbers.
Okay.
And I really do. And if we could just, if we have to adopt the 23% increase just for, but I'm not willing to adopt the whole.
I understand you're not willing to adopt the whole thing, but if you're not willing to adopt year 2, 3, 4, then we need to have a conversation about our capital improvement program.
But if they do this in a different way, the same amount of money will be generated. We're not asking them to decrease the amount of money that's generated. We're asking them to portion it differently amongst the citizens so that the citizens and the businesses and the commercial and industrial and everything else. So I'm not envisioning us being and having any less money in the end, just having it apportioned differently.
It's got to be revenue neutral.
But
I mean, that's Doug's job.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
it can't be revenue neutral if we need more money. You have to raise rates.
I don't believe, Lisa's saying that we wouldn't raise the rates.
Yeah,
And we'd,
Revenue neutral to me means you keep everything the same.
We're saying two different things.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
by
I
revenue-
think the
we
revenue
all
neutrality,
understand we need to end up at this number
Yes.
that Doug has got us to.
I want to end up at that number so we can do the capital projects. It's
Okay.
just how we get there and how we apportion the money, the rates to different groups of people differently.
That's good. I just want.
Yeah, I'd like to see fiscal year 25, 26, 27, 28 not put a 20% revenue increase burden on the lowest users every year.
Shift it to the higher users.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can definitely show that to you. And the question on timing that was made earlier by someone is also correct. So this will require us to gather some data, much like the data we gathered 3 years ago. A bunch of billing data, so that because now we're targeting individual customer groups, and we have to make sure we know who's in there and what their bills look like. And so it will take a little time and a little work to do that. But once we do that, we'll have something that we can use and show you more than one option within the idea that we're talking about.
That's great. That would be terrific. So isn't it possible to adopt the water rates just for the next raise? Like just why do we have to adopt this whole 10-year plan? Why can't we just adopt this one raise for 2024?
You can,
Oh, okay.
but it will only generate a certain amount and you will.
I know. We're going to get another
Okay.
schedule
Yeah.
that we like better.
And actually, that is what happens, is that you will approve a rate at during the budget cycle. And then you'll have another vote at the next budget cycle to approve a different rate. But what you're looking at is the model saying that if you want to go ahead and accomplish these things, this is how much money you're going to need, and this is how it influences the rates.
We all want that amount of money.
Does feel a little odd to approve this 10-year plan, looking at these numbers, but
We don't have to. We don't have to.
when do we have to approve the 2024?
We do have to do that, I guess.
We need to do it relatively quickly, but
Okay.
and what happens is that if the numbers get adjusted higher because of the revenue loss during a particular time. So, Doug can go ahead and do the work. Doug, any idea how much time it will take?
It'll take a few weeks, so 1 or 2 months maybe, depending on how responsive we are with getting the data that we need. My understanding is that if I've heard the council correctly, there won't be any revenue to be made up.
All right. Right.
Because it sounds, if I'm hearing it right, it sounds like the first rate increase will be adopted kind of as was presented, and it's the subsequent ones that we have a little time to analyze, that those will be varied.
That's where things will shift.
Right.
Yeah.
And we will make sure that we show you only those rates that will get you the same second year revenue that you would have gotten had you adopted the second year rates we originally showed you.
Right.
Right.
And beyond.
And beyond.
And beyond.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think we're on the same page.
Okay, Doug, are you also talking about looking at customer groups? Are you looking at customer groups and their rates, and then you're looking at usage over base?
Yes, so that's the kind of data that we will need to get that data dump from the city, probably out of your utility billing system. This just like 3 years ago.
Okay.
Doug, has council given you enough direction about the excess, the idea with increasing excess to promote conservation or to put more of a burden on those that use a higher volume of water for all levels?
I think so, but let me give you, as we would do in air traffic control, let me give you a read back and see if I heard my takeoff clearance correctly. I'm an aviation guy, sorry. So what I understand is that the rate structure that you have now, you're basically happy with it. So the base charges, and by the way, we're talking about the water utility, right?
Only the water.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only water utility. Okay. So what I'm hearing is that you're basically happy with the structure. So the structure of base charges that increases with meter size, the current allowance of 400 cubic feet, and for that matter, the current volumetric charge that's the same for everybody, and all of those basic features you're basically happy with. But when it comes to the increases, the rate increases each year, what you want to do is you want to make sure that residential 3/4 inch meters get a lower percentage rate increase than everyone else. And we will show you different scenarios where that happens. So we'll show you a scenario where it's a much less rate increase. We'll show you a scenario where it's only a little bit less, and maybe one
Okay.
in the middle.
Great, that's great.
Does
But
that, so
again-
did it sound like I captured what you're saying?
Yes,
The only thing I didn't hear was the usage over base. The increasing
that's what he's talking
price
about.
for usage over base.
Oh,
He was talking
okay,
about customer groups, but
I appreciate you saying that, because I want to make sure we're not talking about two different things. What I heard, and this is why it's important that I'm talking to the city council and not just individuals. What I heard from the body here is that you basically like the current structure with the current base charges and the current threshold of 400 cubic feet, and we want to play with percentage rate increases in the future. So I did not hear that we're playing with anything else as far as changing the thresholds.
Oh.
not changing the base thresholds.
But after you reach the base, what your rate is per 100 cubic feet after you've reached your base. It seems right now, commercial, business, residential, all pay the same for that 100 cubic feet.
Everybody pays the same.
And I'd like to see what it looked like if they didn't.
Oh, well, that's a completely new thing.
Yeah. That's another thing. I think that's another scenario. So.
Well,
we have-
I mean, that's another collection of scenarios. So we have this first constellation where we're going to vary the
Percentage,
discrepancy of the rate increase between
right,
the groups,
right,
and that will be a set of scenarios in itself.
right.
And then, okay, and then give this to me again. What you're
Okay.
looking for?
After you meet your base rate, everybody now has the same rate per 100 cubic feet after they meet their base.
Okay.
What would it look like if residential 3/4 had a lower rate than commercial and business after they reach the base?
So a lower volumetric rate for residential 3/4 inch meter.
Right. Now, most residential 3/4 inch meters don't even, most of them don't even reach the 400. Correct?
I
Most-
can't speak to that.
Oh, okay. According to your chart, most of them, the average use is below 400 for the 3/4 inch.
That's correct.
I think what I'm thinking differs maybe a little bit from what you are. I'm just wondering what that rate is after the base and increasing that, and maybe increasing it on everybody. If
Right.
you're,
That's
if you're
a
400
possibility too.
base and you're using more, then you should pay more.
Right. That's an idea too. Yeah.
I'm not looking for a lot of different rates across the board here. I'm just talking about increasing the rates beyond the base.
I like that too. Yeah, that would be very interesting as well.
Karen, did you want to?
Back when Carolyn Probst was here and the Public Works Committee originally worked with Doug, he created a tool for us that enabled us to give you a multitude of different scenarios that we actually brought to you. And the scenarios included not only the rate increase that was necessary, but it was to drive greater conservation. And there was big debate about people that water their yards or not. And if they were going to do that, and they were in excess of that minimum threshold that you guys wanted, the 400, that they were going to pay more. If they were going to use that, they were going to pay more. And what I think I'm hearing tonight is that you want to be more conservative about that, but it's kind of counterintuitive to encouraging conservation.
No, we don't want to be, I don't think we,
Why is that?
I was going to say, let's not back
No.
on that, because we really
no.
worked really hard with council to get to a sweet.
I
After
don't
you,
think that's what I'm saying.
I'm not either. After you reach the base. After you reach the base.
Yeah.
Count.
Everybody pays.
Everybody might have to pay a little bit more.
Right.
And that is going to put less burden on the residential. People here, because most of them don't do that. They don't even reach the base. They don't reach 400.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Are you hearing that, Doug?
So I'm not sure what I'm hearing now. A few moments ago, I heard somebody say that we wanted to test a lower volumetric rate for residential 3/4 inch meters.
Let's drop that.
No, let's drop that and just
Yeah.
go to, let's just take, okay, two things. One is lowering the rate of increase for the 3/4 inch pipe.
I'm with you.
That's one. Okay, and the other is maybe having to increase the cost of over the base
The volumetric
everybody.
rate,
for everybody. Yeah.
right?
Everybody or everybody except?
No, for everybody.
Okay.
Because
That's encouraging conservation.
yes,
Right.
because
If you
very,
use more, you pay- oh, if you use
Right.
More than the base, you pay more.
and very few people in Cannon Beach who have 3/4 inch pipes use more than the 400,
Understood.
unless they decide they want to water their garden.
And they
Like-
make that choice.
Yeah, and then it's a choice they make, or fill their swimming pool or whatever.
Now, do you have that?
Okay, so let me give you a read back. So the first one I think we already agree on is the set of scenarios where everybody gets a rate increase, but residential 3/4 inch gets a lesser rate increase and everybody else
Yes.
gets a slightly higher rate increase, and that we decided it several minutes ago, right?
Right?
Yes.
Okay. The second thing, what I believe that has now become is more of a simple shifting of revenues from the base charge to the volumetric charge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so, and that's a way to make up the lost revenue from the 3/4 inch pipes. Possibly. If you increase the rate,
Sure, that was helpful.
never mind.
well-
I didn't say that. All right.
Well,
I know what I
careful
mean,
now.
but-
These are going to be kind of independent assumptions, and we'll do the greater rate increases and the lesser rate increases in a way that in aggregate those are revenue neutral, and
Okay.
then we'll do more base revenue. We'll do a greater shift to volumetric versus a lesser shift to volumetric, and we'll do all of that in a revenue neutral way so that
Okay.
you can compare apples to
Okay,
apples.
that'd be great.
Okay.
I think you got that.
Now, if I remember correctly in our previous discussion, we're going to be, if I remember council's previous direction, and do correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to do this analysis under the assumption that that the pricing will not really have any influence on behavior, that there is no real elasticity.
Well,
Not sure I understand that.
yeah, because it would seem to me it would have an influence on behavior. If I knew that if I went over the 400, I was going to be paying a whopping amount of money, I might decide, not to water my yard as much. Or,
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I
Yes,
would consider-
that's part of the reason you do it, right?
Right.
That is-
So
impacts
that concept is price elasticity of demand, and so if see the kind of the standard and easiest way to do this kind of analysis is just assume that that consumption will kind of continue in its current pattern, and people are just paying for it differently, but they're
Right.
basically going to do the same things.
I think that's true to some extent. Because most people in Cannon Beach don't go over the 400. You know, they don't go over the base. The 3/4 inch pipe people,
Okay.
at least
But-
according to your numbers.
So, okay, but the shifting from base revenue to volumetric revenue, that's system wide, isn't it? You're looking for that for everybody, right?
Yes,
Okay,
Including commercial and.
Yeah.
So-
okay. All right,
I don't know
so
if-
we'll do that. We'll do that analysis, assuming that there's no change in
I don't know if
consumption
you're-
pattern.
But if there was a change in consumption and people started, the people who traditionally go over the 400 base decided, oh, I can't spend that kind of money, I'm going to go under 400, then we will lose money.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what you were getting to, Doug, that exact point.
it is.
Okay.
That does
So
happen.
It is
this
something
is
for us to-
but we shouldn't be encouraging using too much water to make more money. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Well,
Who
you
needs
have to
money?
address that eventuality.
Yeah.
Because if we can't generate the revenue, we can't do the projects.
Well, then we're going to have to increase something. You know, we're going to have to figure out a way to do it.
Yes.
But I'm just saying is we don't want to encourage people to use more water just so that we can get more money.
Well, Doug, the professional at this, I think he's heard it and it's in his hands.
Okay,
What I think he's trying to say is that it's an unwanted consequence,
Yes,
it can be.
unintended consequence.
Right.
Better way to say.
but I'm assuming Doug may have a formula for that, or
I think what Doug might be asking is, do you want him to reduce consumption or the amount of water we sell so that he can adjust the rates accordingly, so we make the same amount of money to support the capital projects? And what he's hearing is no, leave the consumption as it is. But if you think this is going to generate, if your purpose is to generate conservation and you think that's going to happen, maybe Doug could build into a part of the model. Well, let's say it works for 5% of the amount of water sold. And he can show you a scenario with that. Is that what you're asking, Doug?
That's exactly what I'm asking. And I think the solution here is let me into that second analysis that we're talking about. Let me build in an elasticity variable,
yes,
and
Okay.
and it will give you the option of saying, you know, I really don't think people are gonna behave differently. They're not gonna purchase water differently, and you'll have that option to see it that way. And then we'll also have the option to say, okay, you're gonna lose a certain percentage of water consumption if prices go up this much. And so how much even more do prices need to go up to keep you
Make up.
level?
Yeah, that'd be great. So
Okay,
I
we
love
can do
it.
that.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
over there.
And,
Yeah, no
and
problem.
where are you going to charge them too? I mean, if you leave the 3/4 to a lower increase, then you've got to really increase the commercial and other types of users.
So these are going to be two separate analyses, just so that we can keep things simple and so that we can make reasonably good comparisons. So the set of scenarios that's built around slightly greater rate increases for everybody but 3/4 inch residential, and slightly lower rate increases for 3/4 inch residential, elasticity won't play much into that at all. So I'm not worried
Right.
about that. It's where we're explicitly shifting revenue away from the base charge to the volumetric charge that I think we
Right.
have to give that some
Yeah.
attention if you believe that
Okay.
that's a real thing, and
Yeah.
you'll get to decide that.
That's great. That would be great. Yeah, that you said it perfectly.
Okay.
I'd like to give you like salute to air traffic control or whatever.
Clear
I don't
clear
know
for
the
takeoff.
terminology. Yeah, clear to take off. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. You've landed, Lisa. Anything else? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Doug.
Duncan, nice.
Thanks, Ron Duncan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good job, Duncan.
Okay. Moving right along. Next, we have Chamber of Commerce quarterly report. Hello, guys.
Hello. How's everyone doing? Want to talk some more finance? We got a little bit more than finance, so. You know, in response to all of your questions that the last several meetings, during the presentation tonight to go over our quarterly report and some other projects that we now have in place for this coming year. I'm sure you'll have some questions about those as well. And then I had the finances as well for us to review. But I added some clarity to those, but I'm also going to add some confusion to those, which I'll explain when we get there. So Alan Barber is on my staff, and Sierra Spindler is also on staff. So I brought them here because I'm tired of doing all the speaking on behalf of the chamber, and they're both capable of talking about their areas. So I'm going to first hand this over to Sierra, but I also want to mention that we have David Holder on the line for clarity of place when we get to that.
No, that's what clarity.
Like him up to. And I hopefully coordinated well enough with Rusty on all the different presentations that we have to show you. So Sierra, you can stay there. I'll stay on.
Okay. Well, good evening, council, mayor. It's good to see you guys again. I saw you guys about 3 weeks after I'd gotten hired, so I was pretty new and fresh and happy to still be here about 6 months later. So really excited to be here, and again, appreciate you guys that you're about to listen to me talk about some of our marketing efforts. So this is the 2023-2024 marketing plan, and our
Tool.
oh, all right. Forward. And our marketing team and supporting agencies. So there is me that heads our marketing department as the marketing manager of the Cannon Beach Chamber of Commerce. We also have our marketing committee, which is members of the community or board members. And if they're members of the community, they probably work in a business that supports the chamber. And then we also have Birdie Media, which is a marketing and advertising agency based out of Beaverton. And they were hired about 6-7 months before I was hired. And they initially started with the chamber to create a campaign, and the chamber got a few different RFPs and decided to go with them due to their outlook on the campaign in Cannon Beach. And they have a handful of staff that have been coming to Cannon Beach for generations. So we felt that they had really good ties into kind of the insights of knowing about Cannon Beach and what it's like to be here and be a visitor, but also know Cannon Beach and be familiar with it. So what Birdie did before I got here was they made an audit to observe kind of our website, our social media, to decipher and acknowledge where we're at and where we want to go and how to get there. So I've created this marketing plan based off of some of the data marketing plan that they've also created. And so this first paragraph kind of just talks about what I just said. The Birdie Media kind of got the ball rolling into a new campaign after the audit and identifies areas of growth and improvement. And so in this process, they were able to identify what the visitor data shows and what the community has expressed. Because that was a cool thing that Birdie Media also did, is they collected the data of who's coming to Cannon Beach, maybe where are they going, but also sat down with the community members and was like, what do you want to see from the marketing? What do you want us to be communicating out to the people who are coming to Cannon Beach? So the Cannon Beach Chamber and Birdie Media have come up with 2 campaigns, and they're very complementary of each other. And I feel like you guys are going to be really excited about them. I'm really excited about them, so I hope you guys are as well. The first campaign effort is titled Art is Everywhere. So that's a big thing that Cannon Beach was built on, right? Was our art. And that was a big express from the community members was we really want to showcase and talk about the arts. And we know that Cannon Beach is an international, national recognized art town. And but how can we just really dive deep into the stories of who are our artists? Like, what are they making? You know, they're forging clay from places where they forge clay here on the coast, and they're making a pot. And like, how can we tell that story and really just get familiar with, again, sharing that story with the people who are coming to Cannon Beach already, or who are going to potentially be coming to Cannon Beach. And the second campaign effort is going to be wild nature. So showcasing and talking about all the different wild nature, the landscapes, the coastline. We all know that a lot of people travel here to see the nature that we have in our state parks and the elk, right? We're seeing a lot of pictures online of the elk being out and about on the beach and right now. And so not only do we want to showcase and talk about those things, but this is also going to be a campaign where there's opportunities to educate people, right? Like, don't walk up to the elk with your dog. You know, king tides, be aware of how they will act, especially at high tide. So we're really excited for both of these initiatives, but also how these two tie together. So with the art campaign and the nature, we know that a lot of our art, I mean, even looking in this room, every single art piece is based off of the nature, right? So showcasing, again, the art and nature individually, but how they cross over, because a lot of our art here in town is inspired by our coastline or our tide pools, right? Or the rock, the lighthouse. So really just sharing that story of Cannon Beach. So that's going to be our main goal, is to showcase the art and the wildlife, encouraging visitors to come experience and explore every aspect of Cannon Beach in a respectful, responsible, and conscious-minded manner. So some of the goals of our communication and marketing efforts is to, as always, encourage off-season visitor traffic to Cannon Beach, to allow for consistent business revenue, to keep our economy, the hotels full, or not full, but because I don't know if they're ever going to be full in, I don't know, January, right? But we can try. And definitely keeping our restaurants, you know, because when we have people bring to town that, like they were kind of talking about in the last presentation, it trickles down, right? All the way to the residents here that work here on a fixed income. The more people that are coming to restaurants, it's keeping the workers busy, right? So we're excited to, again, continue to bring visitors to Cannon Beach in the off season. And then we also want to educate and encourage visitors to discover the art and the natural landscaping that we're having here, that we do have here on the coast. Again, so with highlighting and showcasing the beautiful place that we live, we know that often some people get themselves in situations that are unideal. So I definitely want to hit on the part of the marketing where we are educating. You know, we're seeing like, oh, come, you know, check out Cannon Beach, it's awesome. But again, that education of how to be a good steward and to be a good visitor, knowing how the terrain interacts with the nature that lives here, including ourselves. And then we also want to educate and encourage visitors with messaging about safe visiting and habits. I just kind of tied the second bullet point and the third bullet point together. So hopping to the right side of the screen, the summary of communications and marketing efforts, the focus of the content marketing messaging. So content marketing is more of marketing that we're posting on our website, the blog, social media. It's unpaid marketing. So this messaging will include education and awareness that we've talked about, and it'll embrace the theme of art is everywhere and wild nature in Cannon Beach. Working with Birdie Media to co-create the content for these communication efforts. We just had James, he is one of the CEOs and founders of Birdie Media, and he was just here last week, and him and I were collaborating together. We had our cameras, we were walking around town, capturing photos and videos, talking to artists, talking into the businesses and showcasing all the art that people make, all the way from fine art to food as art. So there's lots of different mediums of looking at art in that lens. So we really just wanted to showcase how robust art is in Cannon Beach. So we were here just last week doing a lot of that content. We also want to develop and implement a dedicated blog featured on cannonbeach.org to organize and consolidate the blog posts on the website into one place. And this will allow people to, again, go to one place on the website, read as much as they want to about Cannon Beach and all the different ways that we offer. We currently have some blog style posts that are on the website, and they're operating as their own landing page, which means you can either, if you know what topic you're searching for, you can type it in, you can find it. But what a blog will do is, again, I'll have it all kind of organized. So you go onto the blog site on the page, and you can see all the different articles in one spot. So you can, again, peruse and see all the information that you could ever probably want to know about Cannon Beach. So we will be creating, and we already have created some new content as well as existing content on the website for the blog. One of the other strategies is we are in the process of redeveloping the Cannon Beach app, and that will engage potential current and future visitors in a customizable user experience and town discovery. So I'll talk a little bit about this later, but like I said, we are redeveloping the app and we're really excited about that. The last strategic communication marketing efforts is to limit the paid advertising efforts to the off season, which is typically October to May. In October, we're not currently running ads. We're still seeing good pacing. So maybe seeing that pop up more in mid-November and then go all the way to April or May, again, depending on how pacing is during spring break. So this is to the audience whose goals and interests are expressed in traveling to the Oregon coast and to the state of Oregon itself. Again, representing ourselves among competitors locally and nationwide. And so again, communicating the collective goal of preserving and supporting Cannon Beach. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of the background, a little bit, not too much of a background, but observing. I'll use that word, observing who came to Cannon Beach last year in the year of 2022. So the next few slides are going to be some metrics. And again, this is observing who was in town in Cannon Beach in 2022. So this is kind of a summary statement. In 2022, Cannon Beach was most visited by people who were between 45 and 64 years of age, who made an annual income of over 150,000 and whose households consisted of 3 to 5 persons.
I just ask you, where do you get these figures from? I was reading through it and I just couldn't imagine how you got these figures.
Yeah, so we use this platform that's called Datafy, and Datafy, what they do is they use cell phone data. And so I've gone back and forth with a representative of really trying to understand on how we're collecting that data. So that way we know that it's valid, right? And it's not just obscured somewhere. So when you're on your phone and when you go to a place, there's a lot of times you're operating on a lot of different apps on your phone. One that is common that we use probably here in Cannon Beach and what visitors do as well is the weather app and direction apps. And when you use those apps, you allow those apps to use your location. And so that is where Datafy connects with those apps, that connects some of the data of you being in Cannon Beach, sharing your location, and Datafy is able to observe you being in Cannon Beach. And it only goes down to the area code. So it doesn't go down to your name is Lisa and that you are a city councilor in Cannon Beach, but it just goes down to maybe if you're a female or like just your gender in general, and then talks a little bit to some other data points as well.
What about the amount of money that they make per year? Where do you get that from?
Yeah, so she was telling me that depending on your, again, this all depends on your privacy settings on your phone. So sometimes with your privacy settings on your phone, that it can talk with some other records that could potentially be
Your bank records?
well, no, just more mainly like the consensus records of like, you know, I have a household of, you know, I'm married and I have a kid and I live in Portland. And so
Is this from public records?
This
Yeah.
is all you opt in on your phone. So this is all, it's all up to the user. We do not, we don't take any data that's
Don't do it on.
not been.
Yeah, my staff doesn't do big data, but we see the reports and we're able to look at this. And this is where we pull a lot of that information from. Previously, we would get that from Google information on who visits our website. That captures all of your personal data when you're online as well. So there's various areas where we get this information, but this is from Datafy, which is phone information from people who are actually in town.
But tell me again how you get the income information?
That's big data. They capture that through all the different apps and things that they.
If you don't opt out of every single cookie, that's how they get it.
I know, but I mean, I'm trying to figure out where you get income at IRS, which is not supposed to be distributing information. Where else would you get it?
That's what big data does. I don't.
And bank records, that's the only other place I could think of that you would get the income information.
Sure, I'm sure it's somewhere.
Surveys and things online. There's all kinds of different ways.
I sure don't. Okay.
We don't know the details of big data.
Okay, go on.
So diving into a little bit more, this is just a breakdown of the 100% of who's coming to Cannon Beach. So we can see that 35% of folks are between that key age of 45 to 64, and that shortly below that, about 5% difference is visitors that are 25 to 44. So those two age groups combined make up 56% of people who are coming to Cannon Beach, and representing the 28.2% of people who are coming to Cannon Beach make over $150,000, while 28% makes over $100,000. So those metrics are also really close. So I kind of just combined them with reporting. And then also just slightly below half was the folks who had 3 to 5 persons in their household, while 41% of visiting folks had just 1 to 2 people. So how long are visitors staying? And I thought this was really neat because, again, we can just look into exactly what it is, like how long folks are staying on their visits to Cannon Beach. So I'm going to kind of break down the key terms there at the top real quick. So a unique visitor would be one individual. So if I'm coming to Cannon Beach from Portland, I'm one unique visitor, and I get on my phone when I'm here in Cannon Beach, and say I come once a quarter, right? So I'm coming to Cannon Beach 4 times a year. So I'm one person coming 4 times a year. And those 4 times that I come a year are counted as a trip. So you can see that, again, the unique visitors is lower, total trips is higher because I'm one person and I count for 4 of those 924,000 trips. Okay. And say when I come quarterly that I stay for 4 nights. So I'm one person coming quarterly and I'm staying for 4 nights. So that counts as 16 visitor days. So that's why the visitor days is at 2.4 million, because it's just counting each day that a person stays the night. And then if I come by myself, it's only 16 days, but say I come with a partner or I have a family, then that just multiplies by how many people are with me. And then the average day stayed over the whole year is 2.6. So again, it's just kind of a high level view. And there is some like disclaimer of not everybody allows cookies, right, on their phone or allows the tracking. So these aren't 100% like guaranteed. This is how many people. There's definitely like more that have been into town, or maybe some people don't operate on a smartphone at all. You know, some of those people could be younger. Maybe they don't even have a phone yet, which it seems like every day, like younger and younger, right? Kids, people are having phones. So, and then down at the bottom, we can see kind of the breakdown of the day trips, which are people who don't stay the night, where their phone was just pinged in town for 1 day. The day trips, it was pinged 2 days consecutively, and then continuing on to 5+ days consecutively. And something that was really cool when I dove into the 5+ day trips, the average number of that metric that folks stayed in town was 11 days. So of the portion of everyone who came to Cannon Beach last year, of the people who stayed 5 days, stayed an average of 12 days, which I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, you definitely probably have maybe some second homeowners tapping into that, but we definitely see a lot of either international or out of state people when they come to Cannon Beach, they stay for a long time.
I found those numbers surprising.
Yeah.
That more people come for 5-day to 12-day trips than come by day trips or come for weekend trips.
I found it surprising as well, actually. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and again, this is based off of Datify in 2022, the information that I have and that I'm operating on. Again, we can't really see like in terms of the 5+ day trips, like I said, they could be second homeowners, right? And it comes down to your phone of like being an area code. Like if it pings that you're in Cannon Beach for, I think, I don't know if it's 20 something days before it's like, okay, you're a resident of Cannon Beach, you're being here, you're not gonna be counted in the metrics. But say again, that you're a second homeowner and you come here, maybe you work remotely, right? So you come to Cannon Beach for maybe a week or so at a time or 2 weeks at a time. That could definitely bring up that number.
One of the things I thought correlated with that was the 14-day rental permit for vacation rental.
You know, if the rental period is 14 days, they're probably staying 11 or 12 days of that. Would make sense.
I was wondering if that, and you're explaining some of it, if some of that gets skewed in some way, because it's still hard to believe. But
Sure.
And
it's just data.
But before you go on to Sierra, I want to touch again on the annual income because it is a little scary. What I think is happening and where Datify is getting some of that information is anytime someone fills out a survey, it's going to ask you your age range and your income range. So it's an average of those answers that is most likely pulling the information from, in addition to cell phone information, to, location, things like that.
And then the last thing that I have the metrics looking at is where are these visitors going here in town? So this is, I have it broken down into 10 categories. So these categories are going to be the high level view. And then there's several, what's called, totally blank on what they're called, but they're just kind of like a sub location of this category. So we know that we have, I think, a few different beaches in town and, like Short Sands, Indian Beach, and a beach proper, of course, Tolovana, Arcadia, that are geofenced. So anytime someone goes to the beach in any of those places and they get on their phone, it is pinged. And so again, I just thought it was really interesting, just observing that when people do come to town, this is where they're going. And we know that the beach gets a lot of traffic, state parks get a lot of traffic, especially in the summertime at any day, right? It feels like the parking lots are filled up in a blink of an eye. But so, which leads us to the unique insights that I drew from our data. So unique insight number one is that we can observe that the visitors of all demographics are visiting nature areas, state parks, and trails. One of the main reasons people come to the Oregon coast and Cannon Beach is to see the beautiful natural landscapes. Unique insight number two. So again, coming back to our campaign is about art. So that's where unique insight number two comes in. Now, though Cannon Beach has a large art presence with its art galleries and public art, we can observe that visitation to art galleries is much less than recreational outdoor activities. And then unique insight number three, capitalizing on the fact that people love beauty and the nature of Cannon Beach and the overwhelming evidence of how inspirational the coast can be to the artists, we can find the intersection points of our visitors' love for the Oregon coast and expose them to each and every medium of art that is here in Cannon Beach.
Can I stop you for a minute for a couple questions?
Yep.
And back to the geofence numbers, where visitors are going. So it's 508,253 unique visitors and 849,000 visits to the beach. So representing multiple days, is that the way that data is working? So
Yeah,
it's,
so
they're going to beach 1 3/4 days.
yeah, so coming down to again, remember, unique visitor is just me. And say in one day, remember, I come to the coast for quarterly. So I'm here in Cannon Beach 4 different times. So say when I come to Cannon Beach, I like going to Indian Beach, I like going to Acola Point, and say I like going to Arcadia, and I like going down to Short Sands. Maybe I'm a surfer, right? So if I have my phone out and I take a picture for myself, but say I post on Instagram where maybe they're able to have my location because I want to put the location of where I'm at. So I would ping at what I'd named off 5 beaches. So even though I'm one unique visitor in town for one day, I just pinged up on that board at 5 places. That doesn't include, if I went and ate at the Driftwood, and if I'm staying at Surf Sand and I go visit Jeffrey Hull's gallery, right? So those are additional places where my phone is going to ping into this data. Did that answer your question, Gary?
It's good enough.
Okay.
This goes back to, for a couple of years now, we've been looking at Datify data, and I told you it's a fire hose of data. This is still just high level data that we're looking at. And this is for 2022. That data we have goes all the way back to 2018.
I guess I'm a little curious. So much of the plan is about arts, but your own data says that less than 1% of unique visitors are going to an art gallery. I
Sure.
think it's less than 0.8%.
Sure.
1%.
So there is a small disclaimer on this part thinking, so when you go to an art gallery, how often are you pulling out your phone and being on your phone? Probably not very often. So this data is probably a little bit skewed, especially when accounting for folks who are going to art galleries. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm probably not on my phone unless maybe I'm getting a call or something. I'm probably not going to be on my phone because I'm there to observe the art, maybe even purchase art, right? So again, that comes down to the campaign is if we want to draw awareness and heighten the sales of art and visitors to the art, that's what a campaign should be about, of not just highlighting more and more of this like parks that people are going to, but where are people not going to, right? And that's what needs to be highlighted. That's where the revenue needs to go. So let's showcase the art, get people excited about that. So when they come to Cannon Beach, sure, they're going to visit the beach and they're going to go to state parks, but let's also get them into an art gallery.
And the decision to include arts in the marketing campaign from Birdie was also taken from information gathered during a listening session that we had with citizens. The audit that they had
I
done.
know some of those
Yeah,
people talking.
yeah. So and then the audit as well of our marketing program so far.
Yeah, I guess I still react to that a little bit because I think we have such a need for the things that you're talking about of the stewardship messaging and sustainable tourism messaging. I feel like that's such a huge need. It almost feels like it's taken a back seat here. So that's kind of one of my initial reactions.
Sure, definitely. And I agree with you. I think that, I mean, I have a passion for stewardship and sustainability. One of my minors is in sustainability. And again, Birdie Media was hired 6 to 7 months before I came on board. So this campaign was already rolling out by the time I got here. So we were just jumping on board, seeing what we had and how to roll with it. And within our messaging of art, there's definitely ways to still incorporate the sustainability and stewardship within that. So you'll definitely see messages if you haven't already on our social media where, I did a collaboration post with the Haystack Rock Awareness because people were climbing the rock and their marketing coordinator reached out to me and said, hey, can we collaborate on this joint message, right? Being good stewards of the rock to communicate to our visitors that, hey, don't climb the rock, please. It is unsafe and illegal, right? So definitely you'll see that like peppered in. It's just not where all of our full efforts are this year, but definitely that's something I'm passionate about. So you'll see that in my time here for sure. So these are the target market based off of the data that I just presented to you and the folks who had visited Cannon Beach in 2022. These are the target market personas that I have created. We have one of folks that are flying in from out of state. They like Cannon Beach. Maybe they don't come every year, but maybe they do, right? It depends on sometimes the weather. So in this scenario, these folks are from Dallas and it's been really hot in Texas. They wanted to escape the heat. I know we have that a lot in the summertime. I've talked to so many folks who have been from Texas and they're like, it was just so hot. It is so refreshing being here. So we definitely see that fly market demographic from our warmer states, as well as Arizona, New Mexico, even Florida. We have a high percentage, according to Datify, of folks who are from Florida as well. So again, that's a fly market target persona. The middle target persona is the generational families that we see coming. So in this scenario, these folks, they live in Seattle and they're retired, but they do have passive income still coming in. They brought their kids here. Now they're bringing their grandkids here. They do one big family trip a year, but they will often see this main couple, the grandparents, coming to Cannon Beach often. And again, that's a key in the part of the folks who come and visit Cannon Beach. And then our last target market persona is 2 folks who live in Portland. And this is just, they don't have kids or anything, and they're environmentally minded, and they look to support sustainable practices and businesses in all walks of their life. And they know that nature is wild and they respect the ocean and the wildlife here. And they know that even more like on the coast. And so they love to support small businesses and local artists, often finding a new piece of artwork to take home with them because they really like to seek out unique experiences. And I feel like we have so many unique experiences here in Cannon Beach. So these are the folks who, again, Gary, like you're saying, are tapping into the environment, the sustainability, the stewardship, and also still supporting our local artists. So The goals of the campaign would be, again, talking about the art, is to increase the awareness of the artists in town, to drive engagement on our social media and our website around the art content that we are posting, to promote local artists and galleries, and to establish Cannon Beach as an art destination. Again, just reaching out, just solidifying that, and again, showcasing a lot of the art here in town. Some of the examples of the campaign that Birdie and myself has created. We already have a few blog posts in play, and the current format is the old blog format that I was telling you about before, where it's kind of just a landing page, and we're in the process of moving our content over to the new blog. Social media posts, as you guys will recognize, all three photos, excuse me, on the top, on the right side, you know, Whale Park, the mural, and then the whale bones. We're just, again, highlighting and showcasing that, hey, we have really cool, unique things for you to discover in Cannon Beach. And then also incorporating an aspect of something else that is not a fine art, but still an art, is a reel of the farmer's market and how you can observe vegetables or the process of canning pickles, right? That can be an art, right? If you choose to see it through that lens, but so encouraging people to see all the different things of Cannon Beach through that lens of art. And then this is a video production that Birdie Media has done. This production is over Laura O'Brien. She's a regional artist, and her artwork is currently at Northwest by Northwest Gallery. And this video is published on YouTube. And in my next slide, I'll talk about how we cut it into different pieces of content. But I think this is a really good production, and if that's okay.
Where does she live, Lori O'Brien?
She has a second home in Gearhart, but primarily has a studio and a residence in Portland. We have also done a similar production over Jeffrey Hole. That one's just in the process of being finished being produced.
So is this one of the other? Yeah.
Yes, this would be number 3.
Number 3, okay. So I will have to stop the share.
For the rest of you to the test today.
Unsupported format. Might not work. I can probably play it, but I don't know if I can share it. That's probably going to be the issue.
So again, that was the production they finished over Laura, and we have a very similar one talking about Jeff and his whole family production, right? With his son doing the framing, his daughter-in-law doing the printing now at his studio. So we're really excited about that one as well. And something that's cool about these two pieces is Birdie wanted to do these more as exhibition pieces. So these were pieces that they wanted to come in and essentially donate to us. So this is a high quality production that we're really happy and excited with, but not something that we had directly contracted with them. So we're really excited about those and can't wait to be able to show them all.
So which one is this one that you wanted to play?
That's just a short of the same one, but we can go back to the
Presentation?
yes. So this one piece of content of this video goes a long way. So the video interview that we were making for YouTube was also turned into a blog and a shorter version of the video, which is called The Reel, and also it can be a static post. So we're talking about the art in Cannon Beach from this one piece of content 4 or 5 different times with little effort to change it into the different formats. So we're really excited about that on how, again, we can stretch this one piece of content in many different ways. So this brings us to our projects in development that I alluded to earlier and a little bit talked about was for the blog feature on our website. So it's currently in the process, again, that we're bringing our blogs over. And back on the note that I just said of one piece of content in several different ways, what I'm really excited for in these blog posts, how taking the last one, for example, we have the blog post of Laura O'Brien, we have the videos, but the other blog posts that are already existent on the website, that maybe talk about the Cannon Beach walks or that talk about the romantic getaways. What I can do is I have that idea of the content that already exists, can look at it through the lens of art and essentially make videos for it, just short little reels for the social media and to push people to the website, which then hopefully engaging them, which is the goal, into coming to Cannon Beach to discover the art through whichever medium of art suits their fancy. So we're really excited about how having a proper blog on our website can tie in multiple different ways. The other projects in development is the redevelopment of the Experience Cannon Beach app. So currently the app is through what's called the Visit app, but we're transferring to a new platform called Visit Widget. So what Visit Widget is going to do, it's going to replace the current app. And you don't have to download a new app if a user already has the Experience Cannon Beach app on their phone. They just have to update it and they'll see the new user interface and platform just right on their phone. And this is going to have a more interactive user experience. So it'll act a lot similar to our website, but there's so many different ways where it's going to have its own experience as well. So similar to on our website, folks can get on there and see an interactive map or just kind of where listings are around Cannon Beach. Folks will be able to pull up the app and they'll be able to see, I want to look at restaurants that are open right now, and they'll be able to see the whole entire list through the whole entire town. And other chamber members, I think we have some that are in Seaside, and they'll be able to just see that whole list of, like I said, listings for their search they are looking for. Something that we can also do is we can incorporate our Cannon Beach walks and our public art walks and any future kind of walks or check-ins that we want to do on this app, where again, folks are interacting, they're keeping track of their experience in Cannon Beach and in their activity that they're doing, just to get people engaged out there walking, seeing all the things there's to see, whether it's birds, again, the public art, or just walking and exploring Cannon Beach on foot. So we're excited again to incorporate some of the content that we already have and into our new our new initiatives here. And so this last part of the presentation, Alan and I are going to kind of tag team a little bit of this, but it's about our destination stewardship initiatives. So we've touched on a little bit of stewardship and sustainability in some ways, but here's another way of stewardship. And I'm going to hand it over to Alan for him to kick it off.
Yeah, so kind of what kicked this off, it actually started last October. I've been with the chamber since May of 2022, so a little over a year now. And the first tourism industry related conference that I attended was the People's Coast Summit through the Oregon Coast Visitor Association, and that was in Yachats. And I had the opportunity to hear a keynote speaker. She's a young lady by the name of Kelsey Miller Anderson. She's an environmental scientist. She is a travel influencer, but in addition to being those, she is also a person with a disability. She's a wheelchair user. So listening to her speak about her successes and her difficulties in traveling with a disability, listening to her mission to raise awareness about these experiences really struck a chord with me. And I didn't realize it at the time. It was kind of a catalyst to my passion for accessibility. Every conference I've been to since the People's Coast Summit last year, I've made it point to attend breakout sessions with regards to accessibility if they're available on the schedule. And let me tell you, every single one that I've been to, there's been a breakout session about accessibility on the schedule. It's just an incredibly important thing that the travel industry is focusing on right now. So in preparation for the competitive grant that we've applied for through Travel Oregon, I wanted to get a perspective not just from industry related organizations or resources, but people that I know personally with disabilities who travel. My friend Erin McGowan and her husband Jason just went on their honeymoon to Italy. Jason suffered a fall in 2018 that left him paralyzed. He fell through a sunroof or a skylight on a roof at a party on their third date. So they're happily married. They're actually expecting. So that's fantastic for them. So Erin is an Oregonian who now lives in LA, but when she lived here, she would come to Cannon Beach often with her family. And one of the things that she said to me in my discussion with her is that she hasn't been able to bring her husband here to this place that she loves because of the limited accessibility resources that we currently have. My father also has mobility issues, hasn't been able to enjoy Cannon Beach to its fullest for quite some time now because he can't get down onto the beach, which is the biggest draw, as you saw to our statistics there. A study conducted by Destination Analysts on behalf of Travel Oregon, it was conducted in 3 parts, has the primary objectives of developing a profile of Oregon visitors, including their psychographics, travel personas, and demographics. It has the objective of understanding their travel behaviors and motivations, as well as in-destination activities and spend. Provides data to support Oregon visitor volume estimates by region and segment, and engages visitors in destination experience and identifies what is successful, what can be added, and what can be improved. And there were 3 components to this survey. The first was an online panel survey of U.S. travelers who visited Oregon between January 21 and December 22. There was an online survey of Travel Oregon partners owned audiences who visited Oregon between January 21 and December 22. And there was an online survey of Portland International Airport's Wi-Fi users who visited Oregon between January 21 and December 22. This survey included out-of-state and in-state visitors. So Oregon Coast visitors, specifically, all of these percentages will pertain to the coast as a whole. Oregon Coast visitors spent almost a week, so 6.3 days on their trip in 21 and 22. The average spending per person per day was $249. Lodging accounted for the largest share of wallet at $66 per person per day, followed closely by restaurants and dining at $59. 3/4 of those visitors enjoyed food and drink while on their trip, which was the leading activity. 61% engaged in outdoor recreation, 42% chose a scenic ride and or shopping, and 26% enjoyed the arts and cultural activities. 16.1% of those visitors have a disability, and 9% had a walking type disability. Cannon Beach was the third most visited coastal city in 21 and 22, just behind Lincoln City and Seaside, with 32.5 of those visitors surveyed coming to Cannon Beach. 30% of people who visited stated accessibility was important in deciding to visit the coast region, using a scale of very important to not at all important. 38% of visitors stated their satisfaction with accessibility on the coast, using a scale of very satisfied to very unsatisfied. We feel additional ADA equipment and assistance can only benefit Cannon Beach, which is why we are applying for this. We've applied for this grant, and we're going to go into the three parts of that here. So we'll have Sierra kick it off.
Yeah, so in thinking about as well as like Alan's passion, there was a big pain that we saw a lot this summer. And primarily we saw it a lot during the Sandcastle contest. We got so many calls at our office, right, for folks looking to access beach wheelchairs. And a lot of people were like, well, we know there's a place in town, it's managed over here, but we're not sure, are they available? And our answer had to be, unfortunately, they are not. So, you know, with people wanting to come visit, like in that primary example, maybe they weren't able to come to the Sandcastle contest, or if they were just coming to the coast in general, we had to tell them that you go down to Manzanita or Seaside. And I don't know what the outcome of their visitation was, but that's potential, like losing like revenue in hotels and in restaurants if folks are going to other cities because these other cities have more accessibility amenities than we have to offer. So
I think just as important too, it makes them feel that they're not welcome here.
Yeah, and that was another big thing. There was one certain user that commented on a lot of our Sandcastle posts was saying, you don't want us here, we're not welcome. And that's definitely not the message we want to send out on in Cannon Beach. And that's ultimately like not true. So it was definitely pulling on the heartstrings that someone felt so strongly that they were unwelcome in Cannon Beach because they couldn't have accessibility down onto the beach. So we decided to just think about what would be the best ways to implement like accessibility like here on the coast. And to utilize the amount that we could apply for, we came up with this three-part initiative. And the first initiative is called Wheel the World. And it's this organization that comes to a town and they audit the locations of destinations of choice. And so when I say audit, most of the time, like audit seems like a scary word, but it's more of an observation. So that way they can put in to their system what a hotel or a restaurant or maybe an art gallery or what the state park or what the mountain bike park can offer. Like how accessible is it? Not that, oh, like shame on you for not being this way, but just what do you offer, right? Like maybe some hotels have rooms that have flush floors, right? That you could roll into if you're a wheelchair user, but maybe some are just have stand-up showers versus tubs, right? So just observing those options at the different hotels and restaurants and state parks, the beaches, what those have. But I'll let Alan talk a little bit more about the Wheel the World because he knows a little bit more about them since his friends.
So Aaron and Jason, they actually partnered very closely with Wheel the World to plan their honeymoon. They said it's a fantastic service. They actually had support on the ground while they were there. And so essentially when Wheel the World comes and they do this audit of the listings, we've opted for the plan through Wheel the World to audit 30 listings. We haven't decided, where they're going yet. But once they've conducted their audits, they've given us the report. What they will then do is they will upload it to their website, their platform. I've been describing it as Expedia for people with disabilities. So they will type in Cannon Beach and it populates all of the listings that they've audited. And again, it gives you if the hotel has a roll-in shower or if there are ramps, going to the restaurants or the shops, and then it allows the person using the service to plan their vacation accordingly if they know where it's going to be easier for them to go. And it even goes so far as to attractions. So we could have them audit, Indian Beach Trail or, the ramp down to Haystack Rock at Tolovana, things of that nature. So we decided that the main, it's a good portion of the grant is going to go to Wheel the World because we felt that an audit of the community as a whole would give us a greater idea in the future of where to put forth our accessibility efforts. And so that's kind of a little bit about Wheel the World. The second initiative with this grant is to be purchasing 3, they're called Not a Wheelchair. So essentially what those are, it actually started as a company, a gentleman whose wife has a disability. She's a wheelchair user, didn't have a way of enjoying trails, going off-roading with her current chair. He built her a chair out of bicycle parts. And then he started this company called Not a Wheelchair. They're battery operated. They are able to go on the beach. They're able to go on trails. They are operated with 2, I guess you'd call them joysticks on the sides that have brakes on them as well. So we are going to order 2 adult size and 1 child size wheelchair. Part of that is also going to be constructing lockers to store them in. The rental process will be handled through us as well. And so, we're really excited about those wheelchairs as well.
Yeah, and what's good about the lockers of this company that we're going with is they have an app-based system, so folks could access it, check it out, reserve it, and unlock the wheelchair door just from their phone. And what's cool is if a lot of people have used this company, and so you can get on there and see, like, if you're traveling the Oregon coast, like which cities have these offerings. The next closest one would be Lincoln City in terms of someone who uses the same software. So we're really excited about that it's a company that had establishment, especially on wheelchair users' phones. So when they come to Cannon Beach, they pull up their app, they're looking for something, they'll be able to see that we have offerings. Another reason why we felt really strongly about this second initiative is because no matter what day and age it is, the more resources we have, just the better, right? The more people that we are giving that freedom and that opportunity to. So again, we're really excited about these Not a Wheelchairs and the opportunity that people are going to have to go to Ocean Avenue, right? With a little bit of suspension and, also maybe go to Cold Creek Trail or do the pathway on a cold viewpoint that they might not otherwise be able to do.
How much is the grant you applied for and when do you know if you get it?
Yeah, so the total that we applied for was $100,000 and that was the max of what Travel Oregon was allowing per grant request. And we will know in November, middle of November.
November 15th, I think is the day. Yeah.
So the last initiative that we have on here would be to install seasonal Moby mats. And so a Moby mat, essentially what it is you put it out on the sand and it acts, think of like a carpet, right? Where it's going to give you a little bit more, it's going to give you a lot more stability on the dry sand, right? Where it's hard to walk through and you feel like you've walked so far and you've walked like all of 3 steps, right? Because you're sinking in. So what it's going to do, it's going to create this structure, what it's made out of, and it's going to give you the opportunity to walk safely like you would be on solid ground. And so Seaside just installed a large Moby mat off of their 12th Avenue, I believe.
Yep.
And so they have a lot more dunes right before you get to their compact sand where their tide line is. We don't have quite as much as that. So what we would envision would be a few different places in town where these Moby mats would be installed. Another reason why we're excited about Moby mats is because it's going to serve a wider range of people. Like if there was a Moby mat for me to walk on to the dry sand, if I'm going to take pictures of Haystack Rock in the evening or at any time of day, I'd rather walk on a Moby mat versus walking through the dry sand. I think anyone would probably opt for that, right? Less sand in your shoes. Again, it's not as hard on your joints and you're just getting out to the sand more efficiently and quicker and not having to fight the sand.
One of the things that the fire department and the lifeguards identified as people getting out to the beach, but then being too tired to get off of the beach. So they've been assisting people and driving them off the beach. You guys may have experienced that at some point too. So this would help in that area as well for our community.
And the other thing about these mats too is they are they're not just like a solid material. There's holes in them, so it sifts the sand out. It just like essentially just wicks it off. as well. So the sand's not going to get into wheels. It's not going to get into, components of walkers or canes or beach carts. I have a beach cart with tiny wheels. I hate dragging it through the soft sand. Strollers, it just gives, like Sierra said, an opportunity for a
Permanent structure, you actually.
no, we would roll them out at the beginning of the summer, bring them back in when the tide starts to get closer and closer to the seawall. So it's temporary. They roll out, we'd store them, and then.
So it'd probably be like a holiday to holiday situation. Again, so we know when we had a few weeks ago, early kind of king or high tide sneaker waves. And so we wouldn't want the Moby mats to be damaged, right, by the
Yeah,
ocean.
Seaside actually just brought theirs back in, I think, end of September. So.
And so we would envision during the winter when we're storing these, they'd be stored within the structure of the lockers as well. So definitely we kind of have that already planned out, if not at our storage unit, but we're thinking ahead about where we would store those in the winter. So that's kind of our 3-part initiative. We're really excited what this can do for just the visiting community and our community as a whole. So yeah, like I said, we're really excited and just wanted any questions about the marketing or our initiative or the grant or any excitement, right?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I think
That
you
means you
did.
did a really good job.
Hope so.
As you can see, they're very thorough and passionate about what they do. It's great to have staff like that. I can't tell you how happy I am to have them there. So as we look forward to more stewardship initiatives and what to look forward to in the future. One of the things that we faced currently is what are we doing towards the future of tourism? You've asked me that question. It's been brought up about destination development, stewardship. These are all things that are important to our community. We also know that summertime, we get plenty of visitors in the summer and we don't really need to be driving tourism more in that time frame. So I was at a conference and was talking to David at Clarity of Place and just explaining all the hardship that our community is facing with community members not being thrilled with over tourism, which is hitting our community. And his company has worked with places like Vail and other destinations that have faced the same issues that we're having. I have him online here, so I thought rather than having me explain what they do, we contracted with them to come in and help our community look to the future, study the stats, find commonality in things where our community needs to go. And this will help guide our future stewardship opportunities as we go. And it's really to bring everybody in the community and get all of their input into this. So it's not just us deciding that, but I'll let David explain it. And I got
Good evening. Good evening, council members. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I'm actually broadcasting from Little Rock, Arkansas today. We are here for a Destinations International Advocacy Summit, and destination stewardship is certainly a big topic at this conference, and it's one that is really taking so many different destinations by storm as they're trying to figure out really what does stewardship mean for our community. Are we really seeing too many different guests? Are the guests having too much of an impact on our community? Are we missing out on certain opportunities to improve the quality of life of our residents? And how do we go about doing that? So to that end, as Jim mentioned, our team has been working on really a data-driven solution that gives us a diagnostic tool to understand community alignment and how residents and visitors truly find balance within the community. And we call this place balance. We look at a lot of different elements of this, including where are there strains in the community, where are there opportunities in the community, how is the visitor economy aligned with community priorities, what's the physical product of the destination, and how are our visitors interacting with that, and how are our residents interacting with that. We looked at different market trends that are affecting the destination, both in terms of what's happening in terms of of how our residents and our visitors interchange with one another. As we started working through this, we realized that balance in this case is understanding that our community still has to be competitive. We have this year-round tourism industry, and we made to make certain that we are taking care of those businesses and those employees that are needing that January business or that December business at the same time that we know they're benefiting from the July business. We also have that need for sustainability to find how do we make certain that if we are focusing our visitor efforts around our visitor economy, how do we make certain it's not creating so much strain on our residents that they're really disenchanted with what drew them to this community in the first place? We do a lot of questions around community alignment, and we understand that all sorts of elements of what makes our community appealing to our residents are also the same things that make our community appealing to the visitor. You saw this great presentation on the data trends and some of the research that's out there. Our efforts really take that data and we apply more resources into that mix to give a really accurate picture of what's going on. And so we worked in places that have seen the effects of great visitation trends. They've seen the effects of new residents moving into the community, second home owners really driving the community, the whole work from home environment, changing the fabric of what the community is all about. Places like Aspen, Colorado, Steamboat Springs, Colorado, the Glacier Country of Montana, currently working in an outdoor recreation destination in Ohio called the Hocking Hills. We apply these different elements of understanding what the capacity of the community is to really embrace tourism. We then apply what's the market performance, some of the data points that you saw earlier tonight. We then start asking our residents and our businesses, what do you need? Where are those pain points? How do we address those pain points, knowing that we're not going to solve this in 2 months or 3 months? It's going to take a concerted effort and a plan, as Jim said, to really understand where do we need to go and how do we take these notions of community strain from visitation or perceptions of what that looks like and really build an accurate picture of what's going on so we can address the actual problem and not try to apply a blanket solution that really doesn't address the specifics of what the problem actually is. All of this comes through our place balance process. We've committed actually to wanting to do several different conversations across the community to reinforce some of those needs, to understand those needs and really to dive into problem solving. So we're not just simply complaining about what our perceptions and what our feelings are on what tourism's driving. We're really getting into the point of how do we create solutions that can better enhance the quality of life of our residents and the visitor satisfaction of our guests that are coming here. That's the overview of the process that we use. We've utilized this to really help places like Aspen understand the realities of what's going on in their destination economy and how to really build around that and how not necessarily to grow at times where they don't need to grow, but to really refocus that. So sometimes the solution becomes a destination development solution. Sometimes it becomes an infrastructure solution. Sometimes it addresses things around workforce or even things in terms of how is affordability factoring in as part of our challenge. Let's start really looking at solutions to drive those types of problems so we can really move things forward and be the type of place that our residents want us to be and our visitors will continue to want to be a part of. Let me pause there and see if you have any questions, but we're really excited about working with Cannon Beach.
I haven't heard any ideas yet, though, about how to balance it.
We haven't started our work yet, so I can't actually talk about what we found because we haven't actually started doing the research and the compilation of this. Tonight actually is kind of the kickoff of this particular project.
What about balance? Have you have you found a way to balance it in other communities?
We have. It's really one of those elements that's focusing where we need visitation versus versus where we know we need to change the way that we're focusing this. So, we often refer to an organization like the Cannon Beach Chamber as a destination marketing organization. This whole process allows that marketing focus to be enacted when we need business. But it also puts more of a pressure on being a destination management organization at times where we need to think about how are we managing the guests coming here? How do we either curb the type of guests that we're getting so that, that those day trippers often have a different level of impact than those visitors that are coming in for 11-night stays. So how do we really think about the way that we're applying that data so our destination management efforts become focused on what the community needs and not simply reacting to what we're already driving?
Can you use a specific example of what you're talking about?
Sure.
Something that you've done in other places?
I'll give you an example from Aspen. In Aspen, a number of years ago, they began to shift away from marketing the winter season. Aspen's, noted ski resort. They put the efforts into really driving new events in June, July, and August. What they've learned through this process is that worked so well. Now our residents are reacting to, we are really challenged by how many visitors we're getting here during June, July, and August. We're also seeing that our employees and our businesses still have needs in times of the year like October, November, December, or April and May. And we're not addressing what those needs are. So those businesses have, in many times, they would take the month of May off. They would kind of be, hey, we're going to transition from one busy season to another busy season. We're just going to close shop. That's not necessarily the case anymore. So those needs have really changed. Our efforts through Place Balance, working with Aspen, allowed them to really begin shifting their strategy throughout the year. No longer are they, if they have a meeting with an event that says, yeah, we're thinking about the fourth weekend of July, they instantly start talking about how do we shift you to a different time of the year? We cannot accommodate your event. And it's changing the way the city is actually reacting to event licenses. It's changing the nature of the way that they do business. So it allows you to really shift strategies based on the needs of the community and based on how we need to either manage visitation, market visitation, or simply look at the way that we develop the infrastructure to support it. Other questions?
How do you determine capacity?
So we look at things, I'll give you a good example of this. We look at things like a parking lot, and a parking lot has X number of spaces. That's not the capacity of the parking lot. It's actually the how many times that parking lot turns over. So we have to calculate that as part of the whole mixture. I'll give you another little scenario of what we looked at with Aspen. Got a call from our Aspen client one day. They said, we have sewage information for you. And they were very excited about having the sewage information. We're like, okay, let's look at what we have. We started talking about this and we realized we've got to understand what's our sewage capacity in our community. You have a pretty good handle on this usually as the city. Let's make certain we're understanding that sewage capacity has to support our busiest times in terms of visitation, but also the residents that live there. And it really we think about that in terms of all sorts of different measures. So we've applied this model so we can actually continually add new elements to that notion of capacity. Anytime we can calculate it, we're throwing it in the mix.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're looking
Thanks.
forward to working with Cannon Beach.
Thanks.
You can see it's a lot of information that I think will help guide the future of Cannon Beach. our destination management efforts. To really help bring us all together and go down a path that's best for Cannon Beach. Hopefully, residents as well as the business community. So when I have said in the past that we're not just doing what's best for business, we're doing what's best for the whole community. I always look at all the different aspects. We're making decisions at the chamber because I live here too. I want it to be the community that I love. So I think that's really the first step to finding out what our future can be, where everybody's happy with what Cannon Beach will be in the future. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, on to the fun part. Ready? History. I sent you all the financials because you guys have asked many questions about that. I just wanted to kind of go back to the beginning because sometimes I think that gets lost. Back in 2015, the TLT didn't exist. The lodging industry and the chamber came to the city and asked this. There was much debate about whether this was important, and at that time, we wanted to create a marketing program for Cannon Beach because we didn't have one. The chamber had $500 before that to market. We were coming to the city and asking TAC for funding for all of our marketing efforts prior to 2015. A lot of that work came from TAC funded events. That's 2013 is when I came to work at the chamber. So a lot of what happened prior to that, I'm not sure of all the details. But in 2015, the hotels came and asked for that, where 70% would go to the chamber to manage marketing efforts for the community, because we're really left to whoever saying whatever they wanted about Cannon Beach. It wasn't our message being put out there. It was whoever wanted to say anything. 30% would go to the city, and that would be a direct benefit to you. And I haven't seen the city pass up on getting money that goes into the general fund since I've been here. So of course you guys said, yes, we'll take the 30% and we'll pass that on to you. And that's how that tax came to be. So prior to that, these funds didn't exist. What we did with the funds starting in 15, we did a lot of marketing. Kind of what we learned. Thank you. Kind of what we learned through that was marketing for the sake of marketing wasn't always good. You know, just general marketing out to the world and saying Cannon Beach is right here, come visit. Left that to anybody who saw that to want to decide to come. And that's certainly not where we want to go now. It really was, there was a negative impact to our residents, and we heard that. We were kind of put down for some of those efforts. The bus backs being an example of that in Seattle. We put Cannon Beach logo on the bus backs, and we heard how that wasn't a good idea. And anyway, that's always the one that stands out in my mind of like, ooh.
Yeah.
So what we learned after that is we needed a more defined and direct effort. You know, we needed to kind of direct our marketing to people we want to come to Cannon Beach. And then Bruce came to town and we began talking about how do we focus that better. And that's the same time that I became director. So we had a lot of steps to get through. We were a destination marketing agency prior to the contract we signed with the city. At that point, I saw the future and the writing on the wall. We needed to become a destination management organization. It can't be just about bringing people to town. You've heard residents say that over and over again, and we hear it too. So we're being good partners and we want to follow along. And that's when we changed, you know, to being good stewards of our community. We have to be that, you know. We want to do what's best for Cannon Beach too. We started thinking, okay, this is the path we'll go down. COVID came along and kind of blew our whole plan out of the water. We quickly transitioned, pivoted, all those wonderful COVID words that we used to just maintaining a presence. I laid off half the staff. We really ramped our marketing efforts down to just magazine ads and social media. And we worked with 3 staff members through almost 3 years with a little bit of fluctuation on just maintaining those. It wasn't really until we hired Bertie and then subsequently hired Sierra that we began to build those marketing efforts back up. So that's why you see a lot of different things in our budget the way they are. You know, kind of going back to the contract negotiations. It took quite a while because the funding was at a level where we were doing a lot of marketing, but we folded in the visitor center on that, which instantly took about half of the funding at that time. So we weren't going to have enough funding to cover all the work. So then my concern at that time was making sure that we were funded at a proper level to be able to do the work. And then subsequently, that our program needed to be able to grow along with the city. You know, when our city grows, our efforts are going to need to grow along with that. We've transitioned since the beginning of this to not just visitor center and marketing. We know that we need to go down this destination stewardship road. All the communities are doing that. Cannon Beach has led that in the past with recycling and everything that we did in the 70s and 80s leading up to now. And I think we need to be on that path. So that's why I brought in Clarity of Place. I want to get us all on the same page of what our future is going to be and making sure our efforts are going in that direction that benefits everybody.
Are you paying for that through the money that the transit taxes? How much are you paying for them?
Wait, Clarity of Place through the TLT?
Yeah.
Budget, okay.
I think it's 36,000 for that. Around that. You know, so how far have we come as DMO? You know, I kind of look at where we're at now. Gary's company helped us all the way up to COVID, helped create the COVID marketing plan. And that's where that was left off. And we kind of continued that through COVID, and now we're building it up. As you can hear from all the things that we have in our marketing plan and our initiative, we're leaning into what Cannon Beach has been. It has been an art community, what our assets are, nature, and looking down the path of stewardship and what's best for not only our visitors, but for our community, and what can we do to better our community as well. So that's all needs to tie together as I look to the future. You know, perhaps stewardship of our community is more important than the marketing, but that's something we need to study and have laid out before us, which I believe a Clarity of Place will help us do. This is a real brief little timeline of all the history I just outlined for you. So this next slide is the split. As I said, when we signed this contract in 2019, the 70% went to the DMO function, 30% went to the city function, but we also folded in the visitor center, which was being paid for out of the general fund. So that actually put that amount of money back into your general fund. And I use the actual numbers from our accounting system. So that's as it's laid out for you there. So you can see, while we might have hit the 500,000 mark in the last 2 years, that has generated over 200,000 that goes into your general fund from the 30%. So you guys are benefiting from this TLT money as well. And then I put in so that you can see all the savings over the past 5 years that you're not paying out of the general. And I just combine that so you can see over the past 5 years, this TLT money, which supports us for just over $2 million, has also supported you guys for $1.6 million. So it has been a good partnership that's benefited both of our organizations throughout this time.
I don't understand the savings. Explain that to me again.
If we didn't sign this contract and fold in the visitor center into the TLT and the DMO work, that money would still be being paid from the general fund.
Not necessarily. I mean,
It was for the past 20, 30 years.
okay,
It was a partnership that the city and the chamber had to run the visitor center.
okay.
It was funded through the city's general fund.
So you're saying that because you use some of that 70% to fund the visitor center,
Yeah, all of that VIC money that we spent through those years has come out of the DMO funds instead of the general fund. So that's why I wanted to put that in there because that's not often talked about when we're talking about the TLT money and what the benefit is to the city. You know, the DMO is getting this money and a lot of the community and people talk about the chamber spends all of that on marketing. Well, we certainly don't spend all of that on marketing. We often, I don't think spend half of that on marketing. But we do spend it on marketing and we need to do that. Any other questions about this?
What do you spend the money on
What do we spend the money on?
besides marketing?
The visitor center, the administrative and the staff to do both those functions. During COVID, we didn't have that much. That's where the reserve came from. We certainly will use that reserve for moving forward. You know, that's completely where the savings were from, is we weren't doing marketing efforts during COVID and nobody wanted us to do those marketing efforts at that time. We took a very, very conservative approach going into COVID. Like I said, we laid off half of our staff because we expected the worst. So now that we dive in, before we dive into the numbers, this is the confusing part that I always wish that I could sit and explain in depth. So the chamber function, Lisa, you've asked me how much does a chamber make and how much does a chamber do? I don't include those numbers because that only adds to the confusion of what those numbers are. That's why I feel it's best to keep them separate. Because the chamber function is, we work on a cash-based system. So I don't count any income until I put it in the bank. Well, we don't count any of our expenses until that check gets cashed. The city works on an accrual-based system, and those two systems don't often look the same. When the fiscal year ends, and Sandcastle is a perfect example of this, we take a lot of our income in June, and then we get the bills for running Sandcastle that don't come until July. Well, that's our fiscal year. So we make a lot of money in June, and a lot of expenses in July, but they don't, now that debt, all of those income and expense doesn't show up in the same fiscal year. And that also happens with the funding with the city. When you guys collect the April, May, and June, you have until the end of July to collect that. You don't issue the check to us until August. So we don't get that money till 45 days later, which is the next fiscal year. So that often adds to the confusion of these numbers. So I'm always trying to make it to the fiscal year so that you guys understand it and it makes sense. So I'm trying to match to your accounting system so it's clearer, but that doesn't always happen. You asked me where the chamber gets its money. We get our money from our membership and our events. The events in the past have been our major funding source, actually. Membership is more so what that is now.
What kind of money do you get from events? Like, give me an example. Like, you don't get money from the Sandcastle
Mhm.
Well, how do you get, I mean, the
We
people
sell
don't,
shirts.
Sponsorships, ticket sales.
okay.
Nobody puts on events to lose money.
No, I just did. I know, but you get money from the city to put on these events.
No, we don't.
You don't? Like TAF?
I'll get to that. That's next.
Okay.
So Sandcastle, stormy weather, treat trail, 4th of July, haystack holidays. None of that funding comes from TAF. The only event that comes from TAF is Fat Bike. And we brought Fat Bike. I think it was really right at the beginning of this TLT process, because we wanted to create the Fat Bike event. TAF supported that, much like Cottage and Garden Tour, all the other nonprofit organizations in the town that put on events to fundraiser for their organization. We wanted to bring a new event because it was a new demographic, a new group of people that really fit the people we want to come to Cannon Beach, that outdoor rec, and they enjoy riding down the beach and enjoying the nature. So it really ties together with what we are. We're trying to build that event to be self-sustaining. That's the one thing I promised that I would do with our tech events, is make it self-sustaining. Of course, then COVID kind of wrecked that, but we're now moving back towards the path of making that self-sustaining, because we don't want to constantly come back to ask for money for that event. So TAP, as you know, are very specific project oriented. TAF money for Fat Bike goes only to Fat Bike. The only other event we have is that the video content, which we hope will help support all of the different TAF events. If they want a video, we're happy to make them part of that concept. So that project, we're promoting those events and getting that helpful. The cottage tour, this last year, we did a video for them. They're super thrilled with it. And the History Center can't wait to use that to promote their event next. That's ideally what we had hoped to create with that video content program. So those are very specific project oriented events. Anything we get from TAF goes only to that event, and any funds unused come back to the city. That's the way all of those events work.
But they also cost the city money. You know,
Part of the TAF program. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm talking about all the events do, like police and the washrooms and, you know, just having crowds of people in the city ends up costing the city money, is all I'm saying. So it's not just, it's not free for us.
Jim, can I back up to the last slide? Just so I understand it. What are the DMO 70% numbers? Is that budget or is that?
Those are the actual numbers that we received from the city for those fiscal years.
And so the 22-23 is an actual?
Yes.
And the VIC savings general fund is?
That we spent on the visitor center for those fiscal years.
Okay. Okay, I think I got it.
So of the $503,103 you got from the 70%, you spent $146,000 on the visitor center, right?
Correct.
And
So you-
357,000 went to marketing.
$103 for DMO. For marketing, $357,103 for marketing.
You're leaving out the employee costs that go along to run those programs.
But that's marketing.
But that's marketing.
But marketing and the visitor center and management, well, my time.
So the $146,000 doesn't include the employee costs to run the center?
for the VIC, not for the market. You're right, for the marketing staff is different. That is the VIC number.
Okay. Just want to know.
Okay. But when we talk about the DMO number, the DMO funding is only for the DMO work. All right. That money goes into its own separate bank account. It only is only spent on DMO functions. It doesn't pay for any of the chamber functions. What there is shared costs in staffing. I do a lot of work in DMO. I do a lot of work on the chamber. My hours and pay is associated based on what I do. And I do that for all the staff members, but most of the staff, the visitor center and the marketing is in the DMO work. That's why later on slides, you'll see the difference. All right. We bring up the 5-year. Do you guys have any questions about the confusing part of all of that? Because there's money comes from different buckets and goes to different buckets. No, Lisa, you've been asking questions about this. And we've talked about it. So have I answered any of those questions?
Yeah, I'm still hung up on the events, bringing in money, that you bring in money for events from selling T-shirts and sponsorships. Is there anything in this budget that reflects like how much you brought in from a particular?
Because that's not DMO work, that's chamber work. The chamber was a nonprofit for years and had to run even to survive.
No, but I just am curious about how much you bring in for an
Our
event.
overall chamber budget's between 200 and 250,000, depending on success of events.
Okay.
Most of that is memberships.
A good part of that is memberships, yeah. Sponsorships, annual supporters. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I broke out this direct from our accounting. I had our accountant break out the 5 years of the contract and the total at the end, so you guys could see the income and expense for all of those and what the final numbers were. You will see in the staff section, I don't include individual staff members' pay, but at the bottom, you can see the overall pay amount. I don't think it's appropriate to be putting people's salaries and wages on public meetings. I don't think you would do that, so I'm not.
Also illegal.
So.
I'm just trying to match you, see where you're at.
But I'm not sure. You guys have any questions about?
On that document, the payroll and taxes document.
Oh, the final page?
I guess it's the final, yeah. Payroll and taxes sorted by fiscal year. So 2020. 23, 24. Is 68% increase from the previous highest total, which was the previous year. I know you don't want to use names, but can you
So there's
tell us the positions and why the increase? What things are you taking in-house? I don't know. Can you just explain that?
again, Alan, who worked in HR.
I was an HR manager for some time. It would be a sticky situation if Jim were to share specific, even if he's not naming names. He can't tell me how much Sierra makes. He can't tell Sierra how much I make in a year. It's against the law. It's against.
I'm not asking for a specific.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to double check.
You know, prices for specific positions. I'm just asking, what do they cover? It, I guess, you know, I've got the information that it's 4.5 full-time and 0.5 part-time. I mean, can you tell me what those are?
I'm not sure what the legal. But it's visitor center and DMO. The,
The visitor center is included in that?
yes,
And you can't, but you feel it's inappropriate to say
I
we've
don't
got,
want to give anything away that's gonna infringe on employees' rights. That's my concern and caution. I pulled the numbers.
I'm not asking you to break it down. I'm just saying, okay, we've got 2 information specialists, we've got a marketing director, we've got. I mean, what are those?
So you want job titles
I
of
guess,
the
yeah.
employees?
I mean, what,
So there's,
I mean, one of them is partly you. You don't have to give me the percentage, but
Okay, so you don't want to know administrative assistant makes blank. You just want to know what positions are included in that
In the
general number.
right,
Okay, all right, yeah.
all right. So in the chamber side, we have what is it's
You.
out there? Essentially 2 people in that whole side, which is a couple of half people and mine's kind of.
in your portion, yeah.
So, overseeing everything, I'm kind of split on that. The visitor center has 3 staff members currently. We do the half staff member. We typically go and try to get an intern for the summer internship program, much like you do for the bike officers. We did that last year.
And information center, so
Are they,
how many full-time positions?
There's 3 full-time positions in the bid.
Okay.
Yeah. And we want to work up to being open every day of the week, like we have been through the summer. And to do that, you have to staff appropriately. And historically, we weren't staffing appropriately, where staff members wouldn't get their breaks, wouldn't get their lunch, and that's not okay with me.
so you have 3 full-time for the visitor center?
We just this year hired the 3rd person. Yeah.
Okay, and are you saying you're going to try to get another half-time person as well?
But this year we brought in during the summer months, one of the school interns as part-time staff, and those are paid internships. So through the
Classic Works.
Classic Works, yeah.
So I'm a little confused.
Basically half-time for the summer help.
So you have 3.5 time, is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah.
For visitor center, okay.
And are we paying higher salaries or?
Absolutely, we're paying higher salaries. As you know, during COVID, salary ranges went up from $11 to work at McDonald's to $16. I just saw the other day that they would, I think, $20. Like,
I'm just trying to figure out 68% increase. The explanation for that. So you're paying more, you've added specific positions.
Yep. Yes, we have.
Okay. I had a question about the reserves, but no, I'm not seeing them on the P and L. But where are they on the P and L? Somebody help me out.
Reserve account. 479.
Which page of the P and L?
Oh, it's on the balance sheet.
Yes.
Page 1.
So there's $480,000 in reserves. There's a DMO reserve and a TDF chamber reserve. Can you explain those?
So that's a combination of it. That was an accounting switch that we made because prior to, I forget which year we did it, but the funding from the city was broken in two for what was for the visitor center, because that went into the visitor center budget. And then the rest was put into the DMO budget. Those budgets were separate. When it combined those into the DMO budget, it became the DMO reserve, just like a DMO operation. It all came under one category, although we still separate them so we can in accounting so that we can see what we spend where.
Okay, so the TDF was that previous when the visitor center was separate from
It was a separate accounting process prior to, I think, 21. It might have been 22 that we put, because it always got confusing to me when I'm trying to tell our accountant so much of this needs to go to the visitor center and so much of it needs to go to the DMO. That became confusing the system. So I said, just put all of the income from the city into one bucket, into one account. We'll sort it out when we spend it so that it's allocated appropriately.
but essentially now there's $480,000 there that now it's all the same. So it's all really DMO reserve essentially, the current
I
contract.
didn't want to confuse, if we needed to look back at the detail, I wanted it to be.
That's fine.
the way it was. I didn't want to, not gonna do any messing with funding.
So any plans or conversation on that money?
Well, Clarity of Place is coming out of that reserve, this work, and like I had mentioned before, going into Clarity of Place, I really see this as bringing our community together and deciding on where we want to go. And I see that money kicking off our stewardship efforts. If we get our grant for the wheelchair, we're going to have to design that program so that it's sustainable into the future. So there will be that additional costs as we go forward. So I think, we will allocate those funds, hopefully with everybody's input into what is best for our community.
A lot of DMOs are actually doing destination development work. Do you have any thoughts along those lines? I mean, you got some of the destination management things you're talking about, but actual destination development.
Well, I feel like that's what the wheelchair program and bringing that in and having that available.
But that's fully grant funded, right? That's.
Well, we haven't.
To start with.
Yeah.
And we haven't.
If it's approved, it will bring all of that here. Moving forward, we're going to have to add that into the DMO work. So, yeah.
It's a one-time grant.
Again, when we're looking at the DMO program and the management, we're just at the beginning of it. We went through COVID and saved. We were fiscally responsible, saved that money. Now we're putting the foundation in place. You know who's here. We're bringing Clarity of Place to understand our tourism economy and our tourism infrastructure and our visitor and locals, how to do that. And that should give us a direction. Certainly destination development will be a part of that. We want to make our community better too. And that's absolutely in the future. Do we have a plan for that now? I'll tell you no, because I was focused on getting us back from COVID at this point. We're really just a year in. Trying to get the marketing program up, trying to get the visitor center back on functioning, and then the destination efforts will come. So that's where I see that those reserve funds will be most useful in having that. If we didn't get this grant for the wheelchair program that we're discussing, we could use those funds to start that ourselves. That would be a discussion to be had. We're hoping for the grant because it just kicks it off better, right?
Now, I thought I saw the contract in this packet, but
It was.
is it in here somewhere?
Yeah, I can't find it.
Yes.
I know it was.
The presentation
Right after the presentation.
is.
No, I didn't provide it as part of the presentation.
It came to, it's in the pack.
I think staff put it in.
Yeah.
It's part of the material.
Anybody have a page number on it?
Other questions about budget?
So the marketing plan that you have now, just discussed with Bertie, did that come out of the reserve or did that,
I'm not sure, but
I mean,
we got it.
was that a separate expense from just putting the,
No, the Birdie Media and I think efforts we currently doing for this year are in our marketing plan for this fiscal year. There is a information that kind of changed the last 2 years. I've been always using the city's budget number in our planning for the budget. I just realized doing this process that the city's budget number for us has been inflated. As you may know, the last year's number was 577,500 was the budget number that I plugged into our budget from your budget. And that number came in at 503. I realized when Lori was giving her presentation last to you about the TLT that I sat in on, that was inflated for us. I've been using that number for our budget. So I'm concerned now that our budget's way overblown from the funds that are going to come in. So we're going to be reviewing that and cautious and doing what's fiscally responsible. We don't want to overspend without having to. So
you were $74,000 over, your budget originally was $74,000.
in budget. So yeah, we didn't spend all that money because we're, we handle things fiscally very frugal about spending money.
So, but my original question was, where did the money for the Birdie marketing services and the plan that you just described, where did that money come from? Did it come from the reserve or did it come?
Did not come from there.
Okay, so it's part of the money
Part
that,
of this year's fiscal plan and budget.
okay,
Another option that I've considered but haven't really talked to anybody about is TAC had been building up its reserve so that it could have a reserve in advance so that they didn't have to rely on the income all the time. That is something we could set up with our program too, that reserve is there and then we would know. I can envision where we have the fiscal number and we just use the fiscal number from this year. We got $500,000, then that would be the budget next year. But that way we're not having to worry about how much comes in, where it comes in. If there's a downturn or an upturn, we would just adjust to the downturn or upturn.
you're not living from paycheck to paycheck, in other words.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But that's just a thought I had that I haven't discussed with anybody yet, but it kind of pertains to what you're asking.
Do you have an overall idea how much marketing will cost, and it's probably in the budget here, how much the marketing will cost you year to year in terms of just a base budget?
Not specifically, because how I build that budget, and I've said this to my board when we go. The visitor center is going to cost what the visitor center costs, so we plan that, and that amount of money is set aside. So if I'm just going to round numbers to make it, if we had 500,000 and the visitor center would require 2, then that leaves 3 for the DMO. We know what the staffing and the costs to run that is. If that's 100 to do all the staffing and everything, then that would leave 200 for the marketing effort. So the marketing effort always is like whatever is left. If that makes sense.
I'll ask the question in a different way. Profit and loss line 6240, your budget line 6240 for marketing. as partnerships, digital, earned media, paid media, marketing services, other, and that totals 300,000. I don't know, it might just be helpful if you could tell us at least some detail in that.
I went through those details. But, partnerships are the actual partnerships we have. Digital is the website, social media. Don't have that in front of me, so I'm trying to go off my memory here. Earned media is that we earn, paid media is what we pay to have the media.
I mean, that's the one that I'd be curious in detail on. As well as marketing services and other. So
Sure,
I think probably a detail on that. Would inform all of us.
Certainly, I can send that to you. This is where I'm. And that budget number was over high. Put extra money into this that may not be there. We'll be conservative about how we do all of everything we do, because we want to be fiscally responsible always. After the last two presentations, I'm happy to say that we have a reserve and have done handled our finances.
I do notice earned media, 0 spent, but $97,000 budgeted.
Again, this is this year's budget, so we're 3 months in, July, August, and September. So some of those things haven't come in. We're building what needs to go out before we can.
So there's some plan for that.
Yes.
What would it be?
I don't have it in front of me.
So you'll send that to us.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, thank you.
It was in my last report. We went through
Yeah. But I just think
all those
a refresher.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
Gary, a short answer to that, you'll probably understand that others, well, it hasn't changed much from before. From what we did before. So.
As far as all those items are.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money for earned media.
I guess I'm a little confused on where you see the 62, like earned media 62,436. Maybe I'm just not seeing straight across. I'm not seeing a line where it's budgeted for $90,000 on the earned media line.
That's the 5-year plan, not the current fiscal. year.
Okay. So I'm probably.
We'll get that and updated.
That's 2023, 2024 budget, 6240 budget for earned media, $97,000.
Okay, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one, but.
Looking at the 5-year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's probably categorized under something different. Yeah, the breakdown, because there's not earned media for $90,000 and
No.
our existing budget.
Provide that to you this week. Yeah, we can pull that together and get it sent to you.
I guess that's part of the detail on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, we reviewed that, and so I wasn't focused on the big number of the line items, so.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody okay? Thank you.
Yep. And like always, if you have any questions, concerns, want to talk more in detail, the door's open. I'm happy to have this conversation with you guys or anybody who's interested. I really want everyone to know. For our community.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Jim,
Thank you.
Colin.
Preston,
Take like a 5-minute break.
did Jen give date potential dates?
Yeah, you have them on a sheet on.
Sure, if I do.
Taking a break.
Yeah, 5 minutes, I'm sorry. Come back into session, please. Thank you. Okay, so next on our agenda, we have the council retreat dates discussed.
Excuse me, you would let me say just one.
No, not that woman.
Quick thing, would you? I just
Not right now. Nope.
Hopefully.
We do public comment at the beginning of the meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And
But we have plenty of meetings, so come on back.
It was very.
Thanks. Okay. So last year we had our council retreats in December. One of those 2 days. We had lots of new counselors.
Hi, Jamie.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
If I can make a suggestion?
Sure.
We have. I guess that Tessa has some dates that we can choose from.
I think, sorry, Bruce, I think these are for your special meeting follow-ups, and I was mistaken about what those were.
yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Are we looking at December again then?
For a retreat.
Mhm.
And then let us send out potential dates like we do for everything else. On that. Instead of trying to figure it out and
And generally the hours on this are,
10 to 4.
yeah, I think it was 10 to 4,
Okay.
something like that.
so we're gonna do that
But
by
in your
email.
case, it'll be 8 to midnight.
Yeah.
8 AM to midnight.
That's, Gracie's not gonna go for that.
Yeah, let's have Jen send out.
Yeah.
Right, and then furthermore, I would recommend that items 5, 6, and 7. Be put on the retreat, that would try to take care of them at a workshop. Before. I think that, for example, when you're talking about parking, we can say parking initial discussion. We can set a date, but people are gonna talk about, well, what do you mean is, what do you mean is the parking problem? What define it, that discussion we'll try to have tonight.
I mean,
So we can get into more detail on. Pardon me, Gary?
do we need a motion to change the agenda?
I think you do.
Tessa's nodding.
You should, yeah, just because you've adopted it already.
I'll move the parking TSP, TOT tech initial discussions, as well as prohibition on attracting wildlife and feeding animals to the council retreat and off of tonight's
I
agenda.
don't think we need to have the prohibition about the animals to the retreat, because we can just do that at the end of a meeting, right? It's not a discussion, really. It's just because it's already there. It just.
I think it was the fine that we had to
Yeah,
talk.
just we have to change it from misdemeanor to just a fine.
So
So,
would you like to modify your?
I'll modify my
Set the fine.
yeah,
my motion to just include parking TSP and TOT tech discussions.
I'm happy to second that, but we need to vote in the special meeting and not in the work session.
Oh,
I don't think so, because it's procedural and not substantive. You you adopted your agenda in the work session. You should be fine.
Oh, good.
I modified in the workshop.
Okay, second.
Any further discussion? So we can do a consent, yeah. All in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody better say.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so now prohibition on attracting and feeding wild animals. You wanna,
Right now, it's listed in our code as a misdemeanor. And the council or the city cannot say this will be a misdemeanor. But we can put in a fine.
that's because they don't have a court, because if you have a misdemeanor, someone's entitled to a trial.
Yes.
municipal court.
Yeah, but we have the municipal court, but it's not to handle misdemeanors.
Right. We could send it up to Seaside or
Yeah.
their court, but they're so busy, they wouldn't have any room for it.
You
So,
want suggestions on amending the ordinance?
To just define.
of $500, not more than $500.
Okay,
Is that what everybody wants?
Works for me.
Take the misdemeanor part of it out.
I
Okay,
think the misdemeanor, I don't see why it has to be that high, but
Oh, well, that's why
$500, I mean, that's,
of not more than,
yeah.
but then then the police chief's in charge of setting.
police officer discretion.
Okay. That sound good?
And then you can go fight it and if you want in the court here, or not the court, but at our little
Municipal court.
municipal court here.
Always nice to have something like that, so you can just go up to somebody and say, hey, I just want to let you know
Right.
that
That's true.
you're, you know,
That would scare them. Yeah, yeah, right.
Did your seagull have any comment to make?
No, he's well fed.
Also, you're not to feed birds. He's a songbird.
Okay, so bring it back.
Keep this moving.
Yeah, so we're okay with not more than $500 and yet we'll vote on that at a
Yes,
meeting.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So next I would like to close the work session and open the special meeting for consideration of minutes of our September marathon.
A move to approve the minutes of August 1st, 8th, 9th.
Ooh. Get on the right one.
Am I not on the right one?
Here.
That's what's in my packet.
if I move to approve the minutes of September 5, 12, 13, 18, and 19.
I'll second that. Thank you.
Okay. No, that's not a roll call.
I think we have to, don't we?
Roll call. Okay, roll call, please, Tessa.
Okay, Council President McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor Hay,
Yes.
Councilor Kerr.
Yeah.
Councilor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Thank you. I forgot what I was doing. Okay, good of the order. Three of us are heading to Eugene for the League of Oregon Cities
Yes.
meeting. We'll have lots of new knowledge to spread. Anything else?
Did have a question, but maybe Steve is not here. It's something that's been niggling in my head is are the three buildings that we're talking about, the NACUS and the City Hall and the police station, are they subject to the state 1% for art regulation?
I don't know, but I'll get an answer.
I think they may be. I'm not sure if it's dependent on value or if it's something else that,
That's a good question.
yeah. And who pays that 1%? I think it's us.
Okay, anything else?